Hello everyone, if you're new to my channel, consider liking and subscribing. It will make me feel wonderful if you do that. Thanks. By the way, I also have another Naruto and Luffy fanfiction channel. If you are interested, link is in the description.
The Return of Joyboy by TheIntrovertRin. A story in which Luffy is the child of sea. The secrets of Luffy are unveiled slowly, which gives heart attack to people. Member list. Garrick Russell, Warlord. Black Money Young Lion, Warlord. KSG PL4YZ, Warlord. King Nemo, Warlord. Zach Travis, Warlord. Adios.
Mom, he desperately bawled. Why can't I be with you? He didn't get an answer. His eyes welled up with more tears, as a single tear rolled off his mother's blue eyes. Oh, his mother wanted to comfort him so much, to wipe the tears away, but she couldn't. Why am I supposed to be lonely? He looked down from the place where he was trapped by his duties, the tears blurring his sight. I'm sorry, that's all his mother said before diving in. Fresh tears welled up in his eyes as he curled up in himself and sobbed. He hated being lonely. Footsteps echoed through the darkness, which was lightened by his glow and the sun's ever-present brightness. Son, the voice which could be the harshest he had ever heard spoke up. With his red watery eyes he looked up to see his father, who sat beside him. Why? He asked, his throat sore and heart all feeling heavy. Why me? Why me when all my other siblings are with each other, with mom, and free? Why am I bound to the duties? Why? His father read all of those from his drenched face, without him having to actually voice it. It's the duty of the prot, his dad began, and he didn't want to hear it at all. Not again and not anymore, it was so hard. I'm tired, a low voice filled with pain came from the young god as he looked below. Creatures interacting with each other, his brothers and sisters playing and performing their duty playfully with no restriction. Do they miss him? He doesn't know. 'Cause it's only in some centuries that they remembered to greet him. Why? Why was he created like this? To live this lonely existence, where he could only watch from afar. Ace felt something was wrong, but wasn't able to point to what was wrong. All he knew that someone he loves needed him. One look on Sabo, he felt he saw him looking the same. His tense shoulders, and the way he was scanning the area confirmed it. At sudden, a low sob hit their ears, making their heads snap to their little brother who's clinging to Ace's unbuttoned shirt and shaking. Ace stood up at once, ignoring the ever-present eyes of Whitebeard and Marco. He cradled Luffy in his arms perfectly as he looked at Sabo. Luffy didn't let go of his shirt. One look on Deuce showed that he had got the message. Thanks for the party, he heard Sabo speak as he headed towards the piece of spadil. The spades retreating with them. Hey, Lou, Ace whispered, hoping that his brother would hear above the violent sobs and the shaking he was going through. The sky was getting a gloomy shade of gray, making Ace and Sabo frown. They knew the sky reacted to their brother's whims sometimes, and it was the perfect picture of what their brother was going through. He was sad and in a nightmare. The air started feeling heavy with humidity, and a faint rumble of thunder echoed as Luffy started crying harder, holding Ace. Ace, Sabo said. Ace hummed in reply, showing that he was listening. We need to get him up. He knows that, but how much? Even he tried to shake him. The boy held to him as if he would die if he can't get a single touch. The wind was also picking up, stirring the leaves and dust on the ground. Few drops of rain started to hit the ground, and luckily they had reached the ship by that time. Why? Luffy whispers in the most heartbreaking way. We get off the island tonight. There will be shifts for the night. Deuce is the first one to go. We will be out in some minutes. Ace ordered his crew and went in his cabin, with Sabo following. Lou, there is food, Sabo tried, and it was the first time that the boy didn't even wake up from that. Whatever he was dreaming must be terrible for him. It was worrying them further. Their hearts hurt just looking at Luffy. How could they let this happen? Did it have something to do with the transformation? There is gator meat, your favorite, Ace tried in a hopeful tone. No response, that shattered the rest of the hope they were holding on. The only response they were seemingly getting was that Luffy's hands were getting tighter against theirs. Even Sabo was now caught in it. Ace bit his lips. He didn't know what to do at all. Do you think he needs his mother? Ace asked Sabo hesitantly. I don't think so, Sabo said, looking out of the window. The water was not raging. It was calm, almost giving them a decent weather for setting sail right now, except for the rain and thunders. But they knew it was all due to the presence of Luffy. They got the privilege and they didn't mind it. Is it related to the transformation? Sabo asked with a gulp to himself. More than Ace, really. Lou, please get up, it's alright. Ace shook the boy softly again. Sabo took this as a chance to get Luffy off his coat, showing that the boy was clearly having some difficulty in breathing with all the tears which were rolling from his eyes. Luffy, we are here, Sabo said softly. Please get up. Your big brothers are waiting for you. That was looking like it was working. The boy was not sobbing so violently. His shaking was also reducing. You can even talk to Dad right now if you want. That reminds me, we haven't called him to tell about the result of the war, Ace said gently in Luffy's ear. The boy was not sobbing, he was looking calmer. The brothers took this opportunity and encouraged the boy. Luffy was finally awake, his eyes teary and looked red. He lunged onto them, making them almost lose their balance. He was bawling again. They offered encouraging words to the teen and rubbed his back, and slowly he was calming down. They sat on the bed and looked at Luffy, who was wiping his tears. "Dad, Eva, Ace, Sabo, Koala, Hack," he murmured and looked at them, biting his lips and his eyes shining with the onset of tears. "Won't leave me alone, right?" "We will never," Ace and Sabo said in unison and hugged the boy. "Want to talk about it?" Sabo asked softly. The boy fidgeted for a while before settling down and looking at them. He nodded, and with few more words of encouragement he told them the nightmare which he had seen. It was not a nightmare. That was what Sabo first deduced from the story. It cannot be a nightmare, but didn't feel reality even. They were my memories," Luffy choked out in a low voice, looking at his hands and then at the sky, which was now clear and the moon was shining. Suddenly, everything was clicking to place. Garp's worrisome words. The fact that their brother is practically a reincarnated person, and whatever he was saying was way too complicated for today's world. They found the reason Luffy always said why loneliness hurt more than being actually hurt. It made them only feel worse about how they treated him when T-Bay first met. "It won't ever happen again," Ace said. "Want to gaze at the stars?" Sabo asked, making Luffy smile widely and nod. All the previous tears forgotten, but his eyes still red. "I will go tell Deuce to go back then," Ace said, already moving. The deck would be empty, giving them a free pass to hang out normally. Sabo was grateful for that. "Let's go," Ace's head poked in after a few minutes and told. The little menace ran before him, launching himself to the crow nest. They laid there watching stars and pointing shapes which they made into people, food and dishes and objects. Somewhere in the new world, a cackle was heard, which turned into a huge grin as the famous news reporter saw the clip which his bird had brought him. "This will be the best news we have had in a long while, ha 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 ha." He quickly called to some people to get more information about the topic, making him grin wider and wider. It was a week after the war, when the bomb dropped. Sabo and Luffy were in Baltigo. Sabo getting some paperworks of solo missions while Luffy playing tag and hide and seek with the new recruits after their daily trainings. Dragon was apprehensive about sending Luffy to missions. The last he had sent him and Sabo with Koala and Hack. They have informed him about how Luffy was having a very bad headache and was crying all the while, whenever they were encountering places with slaves. Luffy was getting inconsolable that he had to stay with his mom. Most had a very vague idea on what was happening, but he wasn't sure. For the time being, Dragon had decided to train Luffy instead of going to rescue missions. But with his quest of adventure, Dragon knew it would be hard to contain him in one place. So, he had decided that he would be only going to destroy marine bases and get information from them. "Lu!" Sabo's voice boomed through the playground, making Luffy come out of his hiding place and run to Sabo, who didn't have time to play with him today. "Bo," he said, lunging on his big brother. "Did Ace call? Is food ready? Are you free? Will you play with me now?" He launched his questions, making Sabo chuckle and carry the brat who hung to him like a leech. "Nope, we are going to visit Dad. He called us over. Apparently some important news," he said, making the boy frown. "I will play with you after that." That made the boy laugh loud and bright. He skipped off from his back and started running to their dad's office, Sabo's it. The running changed into a tag game which they happily played along the corridors, chasing each other until they finally reached the door and entered with bright smiles on their face. "Sons," their dad called them, giving them a smile. Luffy's smile was infectious after all. "Have you read today's newspaper?" Sabo shook his head while Luffy did it more enthusiastically. Dragon pushed the paper which was laying on the desk forward to them. The front page caught their sight in an instant. There were pictures. The picture was clearly of the time before the war actually started, when they were standing before Whitebeard and his pirates. The three Cs allied with spades to go against Whitebeards, and both lived to tell a tale. "Damn it!" Sengoku banged his head on his desk, while Garp was busy laughing and munching his rice crackers. "What do you feel is so funny, Garp?" Sengoku glared at Garp, making the latter snicker. Just how the reckless idiots went after Whitebeard, Garp starts laughing again, like a proud grandpa. He was the second to know about the fight, and from the sounds of it, Eddie was on losing ends the moment he had lifted his weapon. But the question was, how had Morgan got his hands on the news? Especially when Sabo had told him there was no one in the near vicinity and the island was inhabited except for animals. Well, it doesn't matter now. Though it was sure a good experience for them, and hopefully Luffy and Ace will learn their lesson of not going against emperors very soon in their journey. Sengoku glared at Garp, making him stiffen his laughter and pout. Seriously, Sengoku thought. He is in his early 70s and he is having the audacity to pout in front of him like a child when he is experiencing the tortures of the five elders from listening to their endless rambles of comprehending Portgas d'Ace and the three Cs. How? Bang. How the heck Whitebeard let the crew go alive? Bang. Just how did the three Cs know that the spades were in that ship? Bang. What are their connection with them? Sengoku couldn't understand it. How did a rookie crew came out alive of the whole commotion? Even if the three Cs are revolutionaries, which he seriously doesn't want, and get the news of the capture, how did Whitebeard not made them join his crew and let them go? If the three Cs would be on the Moby, then it would have been easier to catch them and get their so many doents back. But no, they had to escape. All the while when they were trying to find the origins of the supernova, Fire Fist, Ace, who had reached Shabandi in just 6 months. The only thing he is grateful from the encounter is the somewhat clear picture of the three Cs, which is only of Cyan and Syra. He really wishes that Cole is dead, otherwise the guy would be also a headache for him to look into. The hood was off their faces, but their masks didn't reveal their identities. Who are these two and what do they think of themselves? Sengoku lifts his head to yell at Garp again, when he sees a proud grin on his face. Sengoku feels anger course through him. Garp? Sengoku shouts, making Garp blink. Do you know them? Sengoku gives a deathly stare to Garp. His chest rises up and down dramatically as he keeps his glare targeted at Garp. But all Garp does is grin and shrug and tries his best at changing the subject completely. What does it matter? Garp picks his nose with his pinky, and it does change the topic as Sengoku bangs his head again on the desk. Garp starts to wonder if the desk was made of atom wood. Those elders just keep ordering around telling to find the three Cs and capture them. Sengoku mutters and looks at Garp, defeated. And now the other on their list is Fire Fist. They either want him captured to summon the three Cs or they want something big from him. Garp tried to hide the flinch his best. He had to remind himself that Ace is strong and no way in hell is he going to get captured, right? How the heck will we find them when the supernova doesn't follow the log and the three Cs appear whenever they want? Sengoku said, banging his head on his desk again. That relaxes Garp, but still he will warn Ace to be sure. We can forget about them, Garp said to defuse the situation. How? The elders will take my ear off if they ever know how many important doents were stolen till date. Some of them are even classified ones. How the heck do they even know where to find them? Sengoku gritted his teeth and clenches his fists. He hates the group. The public doesn't know the humiliation the Marines had to suffer for their pranks on them and the chaos they always leave behind. That will be a shame for the Marines. The only clue for them is Fire Fist and the heck. No one can even predict his path. The lesson New World now. Sometimes the man doesn't even take any of the three routes indicated in the log pose and finds his way to a completely different island. He hates them. After the three Cs came into existence, not only his paperwork started increasing but also his gray hairs. And after the entry of the Spades Pirates, he is seriously contemplating to take retirement. Yeah, retirement sounds good. How good it would be to live in a peaceful island. He wouldn't have to hear the words of those pompous old men. They can go fuck themselves if they try to call him again after his retirement. He could live peacefully with his goat and wouldn't have to hear any attacks on the bases or the new exploits of the Spades anymore. Purupuru Sengoku glared at the Denden Mushi, which dared to shatter his beautiful world. He picked up, readying himself for another problem. Click, Sengoku. Sengoku stopped his urge to roll his eyes at the caller. Why can't the five elders leave him alone for 1 minute even? Why haven't you captured the Spades or the three Cs yet? We need answers. Sengoku wants to curse these arrogant shit pieces. He can see Garp eyeing the snail vehemently. Garp had never liked these men, and now he also doesn't like them much. Sorry, sir, Sengoku felt his mouth taste like ashes, but we are trying our best. What are you trying your best? Another one of the five elders spoke and Sengoku saw red. He wanted to shout at those fools that they can try to capture them if they are so eager. They need to be apprehended the fastest you can. Sorry sir, Sengoku tried to speak politely. Not for the first time he regretted taking the position of the fleet admiral and probably not for the last. We will find them soon. You better do it. Gacha. Finally the call was over. He started to become more jealous of Garp and his probably only smart choice of staying a vice admiral. He plopped his head on the desk and was about to. Purupuru. The tick mark on Sengoku only increased as he picked up the snail, which started ringing again. Click, fleet admiral, okay. The panic in the voice speculates what he had been thinking. Something is again wrong. The three Cs have destroyed the Iron Pirates and taken their ship off just after their war with the Whitebeards. What a good news. At least these pirates are reducing the number of other pirates. But wait, Oku shrieked. Only the main ship, right? Sengoku questioned hesitantly. No sir. The whole fleet was destroyed. Sengoku leaned back in his chair. The whole fleet was destroyed. That doesn't surprise him anymore after their encounter with the Whitebeards. But a crew of 2 or 3 pirates destroying a crew of at least 4,000 members. Where are they now? Sengoku tried one time more to find their location. Maybe there was still hope. Sir, the pirates say that they vanished with the waves. No one knows where they are. Another bombshell dropped and Sengoku disconnected the call. His hopes were shattered once more. He can see Garp grinning ear to ear, looking very proud. Does he like the 3 Cs or he hates the Iron Pirates? The latter seems more plausible. Garp and liking pirates? Not possible? What the heck? Sengoku feels on the verge of concussion rather than a headache. It's their 5th year in the seas and yet we never get their location. Why? Garp laughs at the question, receiving a glare from him again. But Garp feels good that those old fools are feeling lost. He is proud of his grandsons for achieving this feat. How are we supposed to kill them if we can't capture them? Garp freezes at it and then scowls at that. No way, he can let his grandsons be killed. He makes a mental note to call Dragon and the boys later to inform this. But whose side is he? The revolutionaries or the Marines or the pirates? But he knows, he isn't taking sides. It is just, family is above everything, family matters. Puru click, you have reached the ship of cards. Bawahaha. Garp laughed at the silly code. Where's the brat? GG. The sound of crashing came from other side and the face of the snail changed into a smile before a half-hearted scowl. That's Garp, the hero, several spades shouted. He laughed again. The last time he had visited them in Banero was the most interesting one. But the loyalty they showed was what impressed him the most.
Hang on the line, he said with a smile. Need to call the other brats too.
Okay. Ace said and sounds of footsteps followed. He assumes the brat is going to get some secrecy. That's good. Puru click, yo, Luffy here. Garp chuckled at the enthusiastic greeting and he could see the fond smile on Ace's snail. Bawahaha. Garp laughed. How are my grandsons doing?
GG. The sound of shuffling was coming from other side of the snail. Sabo and I are fine. Doing well too. Ace's snail said with a smirk. Ace knee. Luffy's energetic voice filtered through the snail with unadulterated joy.
Garp found a smile on his face. When was the last time have you seen Luffy and Sabo? It was ages ago, when Luffy was 7. He won't blame on his stupid son for taking away his grandkids, but he misses them. They are all grown up and matured, happy and polite. Ace had changed the most. The darkness which had always lingered in his eyes was nowhere to be seen. Hello, old man and Ace, his another grandson's voice came from the line. How many times do I have to tell you to call me grandpa, huh? Garp pouted, which was sure to be reflected on the other side of the snail. He can imagine Sabo poking his tongue as the snail. Yo, Lou, Bo, what's up? Ace's voice came. Don't ignore your grandpa, Garp said in an angry tone, but he was really happy to be angry. But I have called for another reason. His voice became stern and serious, making the brats sit up and pay attention. The elders want to kill you 3 and Ace, you better be on guard. Garp spoke, his hands lifting the rice cracker. They're trying to capture you for 2 things now. I doubt they have the first information about Roger though, but it's better to be careful in the connection you have with 3Cs. Makes sense after the newspaper was released, Sabo replied back. I will, GG, Ace said with a cocky smirk. You 3 better be, he said with a smile, cracking his knuckles. Or better be prepared for my fist of love. He could feel the snails freezing as well as his brats. It feels good to terrorize them. Have you seen your new bounties? He asked to break their shuddering. Hell yeah. It's big, it's so cool, the 3 said together, making him chuckle. His hands lifted the bounty posters. Good, see y'all later then. Gotcha. He looked at the innocent bounty posters of his grandsons. Wanted dead or alive, Fire Fist, Ace 550 million.
The poster had Ace's picture with his floral open shirt fluttering in the air and his D-grin full on view. The orange crystal necklace which he had seen Rouge wearing once or twice, hanging proudly with the red beads. Garp traced the smile with his fingers and looked at the other posters. Wanted dead or alive, Blue Sly, Cyan 550 million. The poster had Sabo. He was standing proud and looking straight, with his black mask hiding the smile which was visible. His white shirt's first 3 buttons were unbuttoned and the sleeves rolled. In his hand was his trusty pipe aimed forward. From his neck was dangling a blue crystal with a necklace, similar to Ace's. He has to say, Dragon had taken good care of the boy too. Wanted dead or alive, Red Maniac, Syra 500 million. It was of Luffy's. The little boy who was wearing a red unbuttoned half shirt in a similar fashion of Sabo. His black mask hiding the impossibly wide smile on his face. His hands looked in a position, which said he was ready for the fight. Like his brothers, the familiar red crystal which he had never seen the boy part with dangled on his neck. His grandsons were mature and strong enough now, so he is less worried about them. Idiots. It seemed just like yesterday when he got the tiny baby in his arms to take care of. He was so tiny and fragile and cute that he had fallen in love with the little baby at once and had made the decision which had changed his life for once and all. He would never regret his choices of taking the infant in, who had given him so many precious memories and brought home 2 more sons with him. But the boy had grown up now, ready to embark to his own journey, to his own adventure in just a couple of weeks. Time surely passes so fast, and now that little baby is about to be 17. He wonders what would have happened if he hadn't got Luffy in his life. The way his life turned to a completely different direction was a miracle. He had never comprehended himself to be a gentle, caring and loving dad.
But today, he can proudly say he is the dad of 3 kids, who are carving an amazing future for them as well as the world. The last past 2 years after the war had flew fast, but he had always known his hatchling will grow someday and leave the nest. The nest would become quiet, like they had all once wanted but never had preferred. The sounds of happy laughter, the sounds of the footsteps running in the hallways, the merry games and all those things would be gone. His kid will be going on a journey like his oldest ones. Dad. A smile found its way on his face as the little brat came running to his office and slammed open the door. Yes, Lou, he responded, getting off his chair and closing the album, where contained the memories of 3 little brats who have made their space in his heart. Come on, the boy said, bouncing in his place, full of excitement. Ace knee is coming. Let's go. The boy held his hands and started pulling. He chuckled as he let himself be pulled by the little boy to the docks, where his trusted friends and his other son was waiting for him. Dad, Lou, his middle son, Sabo, all of them waving his hands. Hurry now, or we will be late. And soon, with the help of his powers, they were off the island into an inhabited island in the New World, whose address was only known to the 3 brats who had claimed them as theirs when Ace had mysteriously found it. The island was like the Forest of Dawn Island, with large animals and large forest and a mountain. The Dusk. That's the name Ace gave it. Yo, Dad. A voice hit his ears and a turn showed him Ace with his crew already settled on the beach. They had already started the preparation for the feast. He was thankful for his headstrong kid for thinking so far. But it can be one of the crewmate who could have suggested that. Hello, Ace, he greeted the boy, who grinned wide to him. The change which Ace had reached to was unthinkable. The boy who only knew anger was now a man with a positive attitude towards life. He was glad of the change. But then he remembered Ace's new quirks as he neared his crewmates. Seriously, he needs to ask his son's crew to take care of his idiocy or he is really going to ground him. Hello there, he greeted to the spade pirates who went still at his presence. He briefly wondered if Ace ever said about him to his crew. Guys, this is my dad, Ace said with his hands on the back of his head. The person I wanted you all to meet today. From the expressions of the crew, he was sure that his son had not told them about him. Seriously, Ace, he face-palmed as half of Ace's crew fell on their butt and staring at him and shouting at their captain. But US said why your dad was Roger, one of Ace's crew said, and he was really surprised to know that Ace's crew knew about that. Yep, he is, Ace said nonchalantly with a mischievous smile on his face. But he is also my dad. Kinda adopted me and Sabo. Dragon cleared his voice. Ace already felt that something is wrong because of that. Gold D Ace. Dragon starts. Ace can feel the hairs on his arms rise. Could you please tell me where you have been? Ace gulps. How does dad know? Training, Ace said, slowly inching away from his dad and trying to hide behind Deuce, who looked conflicted. What kind of training? Dragon's voice was low and Ace knew that he fucked up. With Whitebeard. Yeah, Whitebeard, Ace said, and he could see that no one bought it. Even Sabo, who had joined them a few seconds ago, was narrowing his eyes at him. But hey, that's at least half true. He has been fighting Whitebeard every chance he gets, even if sometimes Luffy joins him. He needs to get stronger if he wants to defeat someone. Really, Ace? Ace freezes at the low voice he gets in response. Ace, I'm not in a good mood at the moment. What happened? Ace stutters. I went and explored, nothing else. Dragon's face darkens. That's not what I heard. Ace really wasn't ready for this. How did Dad and Sabo know about it? How? The island is remote and no information ever comes and goes out of it. Ace started sweating bullets. One look at Dad's grim face and Sabo's disappointed told that he shouldn't lie, but if he does. I heard that wasn't the only Yonko you went to fight. Dragon's face darkened. Voice cold as ice. Am I right? Ace gulped. It was over. He might as well start praying because only a god could stop Dragon. He nodded slowly. Seriously, Ace, Sabo sighed in annoyance. Lou is shouting in the whole base that he is gonna fight the Yonkos once he starts up and gets a decent crew. Fuck, that was what Ace could only say. His baby brother going after a Yonko way too early. He knew Luffy wouldn't go after Whitebeard and Shanks, and that leaves Big Mom and Kaido. He would prefer if Luffy fights them at his mid-20s or never. The latter would be better, but he knew it was inevitable. It's bad enough that he likes fighting with Whitebeard, Dragon said with a low voice, making Ace flinch. Ace really wanted to flee the situation and get hold of Luffy and drill it in his head that how he shouldn't go against them in his first 5 years of his journey at least. Suddenly it crashed down on him how Dad and Sabo were feeling. Fuck, but he is strong enough. Ace. A voice called, and it is definitely Luffy. He thanked whichever god is up there to send Luffy right away, even if it meant getting thrown to the ground by the rubber boy's rocket.
He didn't mind the fall at all and hugged the boy tightly. This is his escape and he would take it shamelessly. Hey, Lou, he said with a big grin to hide his nervousness. What's up?
Ace, Sabo, Luffy said, getting up and bouncing in place. Let's go. We can play, or we can hunt food, or let's spar. He chuckled at Luffy's enthusiasm. Did you forget to greet someone, Lou? Ace said teasingly, making Luffy gasp. I'm so sorry, Luffy said, jumping over to his crew excitedly and greeting each one of them with their nicknames and hugs. It was really a good scene after them being shocked with the realization of his adopted dad. He still remembers when Luffy had popped up on his own in the past one day and said that he missed them all and wanted to meet the Whitebeards for a spar. The reaction of his crew was amazing, with them getting to know Luffy without any barrier and them dotting on him. Luffy took all the attention with glee, and his crew, although protective on him now, loved him. Now that he has gotten an escape from his dad and Sabo, which he swears he wouldn't be able to have got it unless Luffy arrived, he need to play with Luffy. After all, he won't be able to see the rubber boy at least for months after today. That made his heart heavy. Come on, let's go. Luffy's energetic voice hit his ears, making him smile and hold Luffy in one place. We will bring some of our hunt and dry wood for campfire, Ace supplied to his crew before he could leave them be on their own. With that, the trio brother rushed to the forest, their safe haven after the revolutionary base, where no one can find them. Dragon groaned. He was really gonna lecture Ace today, but Luffy had to save him. He sighed. He can't really do anything now except for seeing the preparations and try not to eat before his kids arrive. Aides showed them mingling with Koala and Hack. That is good. With Ace being their captain and Luffy trusting them, they're not likely to do something suspicious. He was about to walk off when a loud familiar laughter hit his ears, making him freeze and his hairs stand in fear. He slowly turned to see his father coming from a distance. For a moment he really contemplated of running off to his sons and hide. But he fucking knows, wherever he is the man finds him. Even Baltigo wasn't safe from him. Bawahahaha. Dragon's legs were not working at all. He is the fearless leader of the revolutionary army, damn it. Where are my grandsons? Koala and Hack were preparing for an attack if required. Even the spades looked wary. Dragon shook his head. There was one rule which he always abided, and his sons even agree on it. Never fight Garp. Run as far as you can once you see him. He really wanted to do it, but his legs weren't moving. They didn't have any strength to resist after so many years of his father's dreadful trainings. They are in the forest. Did he stutter? No way. He is the fearless leader. Damn. A hand was placed on his shoulder and he flinched, but he didn't. Nope, he didn't flinch. And neither was he shaking. Nah, it's all the air which is cold. Yeah, the air. The cool breeze, it's making him shiver. Bawahahaha. His father laughed, pulling him to the forest, in the direction of his kids. He felt like a helpless kid and looked at Kuma for aid. But the man looked other side. He really wants to cry now. His freaking legs are also not fucking working just right now. Is he getting a panic attack? There won't be a training. No way. He is meeting his dad after years and there won't be any training. He swears. His dad won't make him do. You are slacking a lot, Garp said, sending a shiver down Dragon's spine. You need training along with the brats. I gotta check how much you taught them. His legs suddenly came alive and without a thought, the fearless leader of the revolutionary army ran. Ran to save his life and his sons. No way in hell he is going to be trained at his 50s. He needs to pick his sons and run. As far as he can with his dad on his back. Garp alert, he shouted, making the brats come out of their places in seconds. What? Shitty Gramps. GG, he can't believe Luffy is being naive right now. He is coming to train us, run. He really didn't shout. He just doesn't want that bump on his head and the concussion which he would surely get after its taste. He is really lucky enough that his dad hadn't given him his fist of love till now. Shitty Gramps alert. Run, Ace and Sabo yelled in top of their lungs and began running, holding Luffy, who looked paler. They were running as if the whole navy were at their back. Well, that would be more convenient compared to the hell they were sure to get. And to his bad luck, the hell dropped on his head first in form of the fist of love. After a few hours, they were covered in bruises and bumps towering on their heads. The least who was beat was Luffy, who was nursing his bump on his head. One look on Sabo and Ace showed that they were ready to collapse. Wasn't it overdone? He asked, getting his voice back, to his father, who was cooking 3 bears for them to eat. You have softened, Garp said, turning the meat to not let it get overcooked. Glad you all are still alive. We missed you too, GG, Luffy replied with a grin, only to get a loud laugh from his grandfather. Does Sengoku knows you are here? Sabo asked, bandaging Ace. He was done with Luffy's, which was the least, and he was glad for it. Though they all looked like shit and would probably need a shower and change of clothes before the party actually begins. Nope, Garp responded with a wild grin. He is almost having a debate to take retirement since he couldn't find any of you. That made them laugh. The fleet admiral losing his shit was something they all want to see for sure. How did you even find this island? Ace groaned as Sabo pulled the bandage over chest tightly. Garp pouted at that. Luffy invited me in, Luffy, the trio said, looking angrily at him. Not due to the fact that Garp is here, but the fact that they were spotting wounds. They missed him, but not his trainings and fist of love. I thought you all forgot to call Gigi, so I called him. A party with everyone, that's what I wanted, Luffy said brightly, not even getting the situation. Don't arrest anyone, Dragon said finally with a sigh. He had wanted to call his father but he wasn't sure. Well, let's see where this takes them. I'm on vacation, broads. Garp retorted. Finally the meat was cooked, making each of them grab theirs. I'm not going to arrest anyone. After all, he is meeting his grandsons and his son after so many years. After they had eaten their fills, they started getting out of the forest, laughing and chatting happily as if the bumps on their heads didn't hurt at all. Leader. Someone's voice called up, reaching them. Soon the man was visible for everyone to see. It was one of the revolutionaries, whose name Luffy had kept, Blue Bear. The man had a bluish skin tone like fishmen and was a hybrid of humans and a shark-type fishman. But the man only got the bluish skin from his dad, who was the shark-type fishman. We need you out, the man said, after bowing. He looked up and paled at the sight of Garp, the hero. His hands went forward to his side cutlass, ready to strike. He knew his leader was capable of defending himself, but he didn't know what to do. Relax, his leader's voice told him in his regular stoic voice. He is my father. Shaka paled, when Garp, the fist's boisterous laughter shook him. He really wants to pity the man now. Dragon sighed as he took the look of his sons, practically pleading him to not leave them alone with their crazy grandfather. He really hopes that he could help, but sadly he couldn't. He gave a small smile to them, promising them a good meal, and left them to spend some bonding time with their grandfather. As much as he denies that he hates his father, Dragon misses him when he can't see him face to face. And he knows that it is the same with his sons. After some time, the trio troublemakers, with Garp already gone to check food, arrived the beach to witness the mini-mobi on the beach, with Marco, Haruta, Thatch and Aizu. Birdie, Thatchy, Haru, pretty lady, Luffy shouted, running off to the four invitees, with a groaning Ace and a deadly smiling Sabo, threatening the Whitebeards to do something wrong for a second. It would be the first time any Whitebeard would be seeing their faces. It doesn't matter to him that they will see him, but if Luffy is in threat before his journey, he will make sure that they won't return from here. He has been training and he is pretty sure that he can take on them easily. But with Luffy's instincts, he knows it won't be required. The rubber brat loves them, and that's the reason they're invited. Who's the kid? Thatch asked, looking a bit baffled. That made Luffy puff his cheeks in annoyance. He looked so cute. Hey, Luffy squeaked, his hands on his hips and lips in a pout position as he looked at Thatch. One look on Ace beside him told that he was amused as him. Kid, can you tell us where can we get Syra? Haruta asked, oblivious to the situation. One look on Marco and Aizu told that they might be putting in pieces, but not too sure. Hey, there's Ace, the geisha told, looking at Ace, who waved at them, making them come towards him and ignore Luffy. Where's the boy, Yoi? Syra, Yoi? Marco asked, still looking unsure if the little kid was of some importance. He might be their friend, most probably. Luffy was about to whine and they couldn't handle the kid's tantrum, so they decided to break the shell. Here, Ace and Sabo said together after sharing a look and stifling their laughter. The Whitebeard pirates turned to look at the poor kid who was making circles on the sandy sand a second ago. But right now, he was distracted by the little shells which dusted the island. That made Sabo and Ace check their pee, find the stuff they were searching still there. What do you mean? Marco asked with his natural bored tone. Thatch, Haruta and Aizu nodding along in agreement. Lu, introduce yourself. Ace spoke, making the rubber boy bounce to them, forgetting the shells. I'm Monkey D. Luffy, the man who will become the king of the pirates, Luffy announced with his hands puffed out in air, and a big grin on his face. The looks on the Whitebeard pirates ranged from amused, hesitant and surprised. Introduce your other name, Lu, Sabo said, making Luffy gasp in realization and plant his fist on his palm. Oh, Luffy said, then looked at the Whitebeard pirates with a sunny grin, making that literally coo at their baby brother. I'm Red Maniac, Syra, Luffy announced, making the bored face Marco even make a surprised sound. You gotta lie, Haruta replied in disbelief. Chow, Syra, I mean. I'm not lying, Luffy retorted. That's why I felt that I know you, Thatch said, easily accepting the answer than the other Whitebeard pirates, who still looked in disbelief at the youngest, who pounced on Thatch immediately. Thatchy's the best, Luffy announced, making Thatch hug back the little cuddle puddle that Luffy's is. Ace and Sabo felt protective instincts for their little brother flare up but stopped themselves. Thatch was fine, but not Lot. Birdie, Haru and Pretty Lady Bad, Luffy said, sticking out his tongue at them. Thatch copied the energetic boy enthusiastically. They would have believed that Luffy's foolishness was infectious if not for the fact that Thatch was a similar foolish idiot. We are so sorry, sigh Luffy, Aizu said, the first trying to make amends with the adorable cuddly plushy boy. We are really sorry, Marco said, bowing with Haruta to the little boy, who jumped back from Thatch's back to them with a smile, saying that they were forgotten. It's okay, Luffy chirped, having easily forgiven his friends. Aw man, Aizu said, hiding his smile behind his fan. Pops would have loved him. He was whining about not getting the invite letter, Haruta added, making Ace and Sabo share a look with each other. Flashback, the mornings on Moby are Marco's favorite. It is the time when he can finally relax without any commotion and hassle. But he wouldn't want any other. He loves his brothers and sisters too much for not wanting the chaos. He was sitting on the crow nest, his legs dangling from the railings as he stared at the exceptionally good weather the new world was offering today. These days are just once in a blue moon and Marco plans to utilize it to a full extent. The cool breezy air, the blue sky, the white clouds floating in various shapes, and in between there is a news coup coming towards them. Marco took flight wanting to read the newspaper beforehand, but in process frightening the poor bird, who started flying backwards immediately at his presence. He mentally frowned at it. He is not harassing a bird. He passed the berries mid-air, in his hybrid form to the news coup, and took the papers and some letters, which were for Thatch, Haruda, Aizu and Marco. Wait, Marco. It has been a while since he has gotten one. He got back to the Mobi and found the commanders lazing around in the galley. That's good since the duo prankers Thatch and Haruda are together with Aizu. Letters, yoi, he said, passing each one of them theirs. The thing was that the 4 letters which the 4 people have gotten were from the same sender, and a very familiar one. Portgas D Ace or Gold D Ace or Fire Fist, Ace. The letter was from the Fire Brat cuz the sign was Ace of Cards. Thank you, his brothers said in return, each opening their letters at the moment. The Fire Brat had a habit of sending letters to Thatch and Haruda, exchanging prank ideas. He trusted them more than anyone in this ship. He isn't jealous of that, nope, not at all. Yo, we are having a party in advance for Syra's birthday, come on the 30th of April to the dusk. The eternal pose of that island is in there in a packet. Don't bring extra people but do bring gifts. We don't trust everyone and Dad won't appreciate it. So, only Marco, Thatch, Haruda and Izo are invited. Sorry, come early. Syra misses you all, Ace. The 4 commanders looked at each other, each having a grin or a smile on their face. It was a sad fact that the others were not invited, but they understand. Ace and Cyan are protective over their little brother, even if the said brother is strong enough to defend himself. But that was understandable, especially if the said brother trusts everyone very easily. They went to Pops for taking permission. Cuz they wanted to go, wanted to see Syra, the little idiot and Sunshine, and be there for his advanced birthday party. Pops, yoi, Marco said, arriving before Whitebeard's giant chair. Pops smiled warmly at them. What is it, my sons? He asked in his loud yet warm voice. We got invitation from Ace about Syra's party, yoi, Marco replied, making sure to stress the we. Who all? Whitebeard asked, excited for a moment. Thatch, Haruda, Marco and me, Aizu said, wincing mentally that their pops wasn't invited. Huh? Whitebeard blinked, making him pout instantly. Marco handed the letter to Whitebeard for reading it. Whitebeard pouted at that. He wanted to go too, but he understands to a little extent that he needs to command and monitor his rest of the sons. In your name? Aizu asked, looking at the blonde boy, who looked familiar, a bit. Ah, where are my manners? Sabo said politely as he apologized to the Whitebeard commanders before him. I'm Cyan or Sabo. Monkey D. Sabo. Portgas D. Sabo, Ace and Luffy chimed in, making the commanders shift from the fact that they know the identity of the 3 C's as whole now. Huh? Thatch asked, confused. I don't know which name to use, Sabo explained with a shrug. If he takes one name the other will be upset, so he had thought of introducing himself as only Sabo. He doesn't want to make his brothers feel bad. Sabo should use Monkey D. Sabo, Luffy said, puffing out his cheeks. No way, he should use Portgas, Ace said, and the duo black-haired brothers started fighting. I'm sorry for their idiotic behavior, Sabo said, bonking the 2 heads to cease the little fight. That's fine, yoi, Marco responded, while Thatch and Haruda stifled their laughter when the duo whispered a Mimi under their breath. Give us a second, Aizu said, grabbing Haruda and Thatch to the mini-mobi for taking out something. Meanwhile, Ace and Marco caught up with each other and Sabo accompanied Luffy, who was bouncing from here to there. They arrived soon and handed each of their gifts to the little bouncy boy, who didn't waste a single moment in shredding the packages, even if his brothers half-heartedly scolded him for doing so. Whoa, these are so good. I love it, Luffy said, abandoning the prank equipment to lift the captain's coat which Aizu had gifted him. It was amazing. What to tell now, Lou? Sabo asked with a smile on his face. Ace was snickering at the pure unadulterated joy reflecting from Luffy's face. The boy was truly mysterious and knew how to make them forget a slightly bad day easily. Thank you for the gifts, Luffy replied with a gummy smile, making the commanders smile. Ah, I was about to forget it, yoi, Marco said, rummaging his pockets and gaining the boy's attention. Here, yoi, Marco said, taking out a very feather. Whenever Luffy would come he would always ask for a ride or want to touch his feathers. Marco kinda liked that, but he would say it aloud. He had been thinking of what could be given to the energetic brat and was not getting anything, since Thatch would be cooking, so food was done. The prank items was also taken up Haruda and Thatch, and then clothes was up to Aizu. So, the only thing he could give Syra was what he liked, at least he thinks. Whoa, that's so pretty, Luffy said, holding the feather in his hand. Marco's brothers were about to tease him about giving someone a feather since Marco's feather don't shed easily and it hurts when, glad that you liked it, Yoi, Marco said with a rare smile of his. You can put it in your locket chain. Ace suggested making Luffy beam up and take out the locket to give to his brothers for adjusting the feather in it. He really loved it. Why is Garp the fisty here? Thatch asked, having caught the said vice admiral sitting on a rock and chatter with someone. The others' eyes caught the man instantly and they paled. Garp was not someone to be messed with and they knew it. Was it a scheme? But they don't think it was one. So, could it be the fact that the brothers are also oblivious of that? Why wouldn't he be here? Luffy asked, tilting his head in confusion. Sabo and Ace chose to be silent, wanting to take in the reaction of the commanders before them. He is a marine, Marco said, stepping forward of everyone, in case Garp attacks. So, Luffy asked, picking his nose with his free hand. He will catch all of us, Aizu said, counting the number of the marines near Garp. Why will Gigi catch us? Luffy asked again, not getting anything. Ace and Sabo couldn't take anymore and burst out laughing at the funny faces of the commanders who were looking pale. JGG, Thatch squeaked, hiding behind Haruta, who hid behind Aizu. Yep. Ace provided with a mischievous smile. He is our shitty Gramps, Sabo added in. He wonders what their reaction would be when they see their dad. There aren't any more surprises, right? Haruta asked fearfully to Ace. No promises, Ace said with a wide grin. The Whitebeard commanders sighed at it and continued walking to the shore, where people were with the ASL trio. D-Dragon the Revolutionary, Haruta yelped, seeing the man in casual dress ordering around some people to set tables and chairs. There also was Kuma the Tyrant, who was a warlord. How many people do these brothers know? Dad, Luffy said, waving his arms excitedly and running to the man, who opened his arms for the little sunshine. The Whitebeard commanders froze on their tracks. That's why your dad? Thatch stammered, looking at the affection the stoic revolutionary leader was showing freely to Luffy. Nope, he kinda adopted me and Ace, Sabo supplied. So, he is Luffy's biological dad, Aizu said amusedly. Haruta gulped. Being the commander of the information department, these information meant a lot to him. Monkey D. Garp, the hero, son, is the most wanted criminal in the world. Monkey D. Dragon and his son is Monkey D. Luffy. That's a lot to take. Yep, Ace said, making a pop sound at the end. He looked at where Luffy was and saw Dragon give a plain glare to the commanders, warning them to not to do anything suspicious. Any more shocks, Yoi? Marco asked the trio now as Luffy had returned holding meat, which he gulped in one go. Any more questions? Sabo asked in return. Cuz they really didn't know if there is much shock to give them now, except for a fact which they would never blurt out. Don't tell me the 3 Cs are not pirates, Haruta asked hesitantly. But with the snippets which lay before him, he wasn't sure anymore that the 3 Cs were pirates at all. We weren't, Sabo states. We were revolutionaries, but were allowed to do whatever we want as long as we complete missions. That made them upset. There were bets going on in the Moby about them being wet, and now that the truth was out they felt bad since they need to do chores of a full month. But if they kept their mouths closed as they're supposed to, then they won't have to do. Ace, Sabo, Luffy called out to his brothers, getting their attention. When are they coming? They will be here soon, Lu, the 2 eldest brothers said in unison. Luffy pouted at that. He was getting impatient. He wanted to meet Shanks. He concentrated on his hockey and found a joyous group coming from the east side of the beach, just where they were. He grinned wide as he recognized Shanks, Ben, Rue, Yasop and all. Lu, wait patiently, Sabo said, looking at the boy who was jumping in his place and looking at the horizon where a small dot was visible. Who is coming? Haruta asked, mentally frowning that he hadn't brought his binoculars to check. That's a surprise, Ace replied, making the commander's face palm. All the surprises the trio gives them is heart attack. Seriously, someday that will the reason of their deaths, they were sure of it. After some minutes passed and a familiar-looking ship started appearing in their vision. The commanders recognized it easily even before the little brat yelled, Shanks, and ran to the shore where the Red Force was docking. The laughter of the red-haired emperor resounded, making them rub their temples. Seriously. The brothers do have lots of connections, they wouldn't have imagined in their dreams too. I need alcohol, Thatch said, looking at the childish emperor on whom Luffy was hanging and pouting, probably due to some teasing from the said emperor. Marco, Thatch, Haruta, Aizu. The said childish emperor looked at them and waved, walking towards them with some of his own commanders coming behind. Marco, he said, looking at the bird brain with his irritating smile. Join my crew. No way, Yoi, Marco said for the umpteenth time. He was now regretting coming to the party. Ah, the emperor pouted, making Luffy giggle from his back where he was hanging. Hello Shanks. Ace and Sabo greeted the man, who smiled at them with a childish grin. Hello there, Shanks replied. This is gonna be a headache, Aizu groaned. Ace, Sabo, Shanks turned to the boys, ignoring Aizu's comments. As much as I know, Luffy's birthday is not today. The said brothers nodded. Then why celebrate it today? "We can't be there with him on that day," Ace said in a low voice, giving a sad smile. Marco raised an eyebrow at that. "He will start his pirate journey on his birthday from one of the blues," Sabo provided since Ace gave half information. "What?" everyone in the vicinity shouted together. "Yeah, I'm gonna be the king of pirates," Luffy declared, much to the shock of the commanders. "What the heck, Ace Sabo?" Haruta screamed. "How the hell are you supposed to let go of Luffy at such a young age?" Thatch completed. He didn't like it at all that the adorable kid was about to start his journey in one of the blues. "Tell me you both will be there with him when he starts, Yoi," Shanks said with a scowl. Sabo could be there with Luffy but not Ace as he has his own crew. "Hey," Luffy said with a frown. "I'm capable enough to go on my own." "What he said," Ace said with a sigh. "He can handle himself," Sabo added. Luffy was stronger than them if he really wants to go all out. Moreover, the kid had a hidden power residing within him, so he would be probably fine for the blues and the Grand Line. But that is a death wish to leave the kid alone. Aizu tried to object. "How about I kick your ass again?" Luffy said with a grin. He wanted to start his journey as his brothers have done. He won't be waiting for another 2 years as his mother and father insisted. He will start his journey as a pirate on the 5th of May, and that's all he knows. Luffy's words reminded Aizu and Haruta that the boy can handle himself just fine. After all, he had defeated them, even if they didn't want to say it aloud. "What?" Usopp said with a snort. "Anchor kicked your asses." "Bawahahaha." Shanks laughed, wiping some stray tears which accumulated in his eyes due to the fact. "Let's head to the party for now," Sabo said, ignoring the pouting faces of the commanders. Shanks handed over his gifts, which was mainly sake of good quality from different seas to Dragon for safekeeping and Fishman Island candies to the Rubber Brat and his brothers. The party was a blast with everyone enjoying and Luffy dancing around with meat in his hands and stuffing his face with the every chance he was getting. The Rubber Brat went around everyone declaring that he will be the king of the pirates, making them smile but not object to the big dream. Some people even tried to fight the boy, not wanting the adorable kid to start his journey this early, only to gee on the sandy shore by Luffy himself. Then the birthday cakes were set up, hiding some extras for Luffy to not gallop it like he did with the 2 meat cakes and a chocolate cake. All the while Marco was holding a bottle of strong whiskey and wishing for the first time to get drunk. He was feeling guilty only by learning the fact that Luffy was way too young when he fought with them, even if he is strong and makes his instincts go hayway. Luffy looked only 14 right now, and counting on the fact that the war was 2 years ago, he was probably only 12 and he fought with him and stopped the war. If he goes on that track, then the fact that the boy started his revolutionary career at the tender age of only 7 hurts the most. What the fuck was Dragon thinking of allowing his son to go on missions even if he would be protected by his eldest brothers? He was really questioning the sanity of Dragon. If not for the fact how everyone in the revolutionary army was dotting on the little brat, he would have said that they were forcing the trusting idiot in doing jobs. A part of him even felt that Luffy was the one who would have whined to join the missions. Marco took a deep sigh. The past is past and he knows it too well. The past can't be changed, but the future can be. He swears to keep an eye on the boy from now on. Luffy was smiling brightly as he started his journey in his tiny rowboat. His dad and brothers had offered him better, but he wouldn't have any other. He wanted to have adventures and seek life in his own way. And that includes the ships he will steal or buy in the future. Taking a bite from the apple, he watched as the few clouds above him slowly drifted past. Ace had already started his adventures, and Sabo was doing what he wanted from an early age. His brothers were doing great things on their own and he won't stay back. He is going to get a crew which would rival others and would soon fight a Yonko. He would be getting stronger and stronger, so that he would be able to protect whoever he wants to. He won't be getting a vast crew like the Whitebeards. He wants a crew of 10. A swordsman, a navigator, a sniper, a cook and some more. His hand went to grab another apple, when his hands came in contact with the air. He pouted. Well, he can eat when he reaches an island. He sat up and looked at his mother, who was humming a song to him, until the swirling of waves hit his ear. He stood up and he was greeted by the sight of a whirlpool. Well, here the test of his mother starts. From here he is an ordinary person who has no advantage over his mother. He ran through the options in mind. He can't swim. He can abandon the boat though. He can always ask his mother, but that would be cheating. He is not always going to ask his mother. He has to grow up on his own. With that thought in his mind he looked at the empty barrel. Well, he can fit in it. He looked at the whirlpool once more and poked his tongue out. With that he jumped into the empty barrel, which was dark. He took his backpack with him. He doesn't want to lose it. The only source of light came from a little glow which his body provided. Within seconds, he was asleep, completely unconcerned by the dangers he could face. On a remote island, on a pink-colored ship, a fat, ugly lady ran her fingers through the railings of a ship. A layer of dust settled on her fingers as she asked in a cold voice the reason for so much dust. Her men, her crew, the pirates, got scared of her as they tried to beg for forgiveness. They tried to persuade the fat lady to give them a second chance and that they will never let it happen again. But the captain, Lady Alvida, as she was called, mercilessly pounded her iron mace on the pirate which tried to beg for another chance. She then turned towards a short, pink-haired boy, who visibly started sweating. "Kobe, who's the most beautiful person in all the seas?" the captain asked the timid boy with a shark-like grin. Aye, it's obviously you, Lady Alvida," Kobe uttered, his hold trembling as he held the cleaning stick tightly in his helpless arms. The captain laughed maniacally before she stated the obvious reason of why Kobe, the pink-haired brat, was still alive and not dead. Navigation. Kobe was the only one who had more knowledge than anyone on the ship about navigation in the world of seas, where they live. Kobe winced quietly when a kick landed on his gut by the captain of the ship, who then ordered her crew to keep on cleaning and retired to rest in her own cabin. Kobe wiped his silent tears, shakily getting up and thanking the gods for he didn't get an iron mace on his head as he had thought he would get. Sniffling quietly and realizing how pitiful he really is to be a slave for a pirate and to have his dreams crushed, Kobe wobbled to a corner where he was left all alone. The silent waves would always calm him down, promising a good time in the future, but Kobe couldn't feel that today as he begged for freedom from his miserable life, for happiness which he once had, and for the will to believe and achieve his dream. His glassy eyes opened to find something amiss. There was a barrel floating in the sea waters. He stood up, wiping his tears, to drag the barrel out, all in hopes of getting a little leverage and less beating from the ruthless captain. He pulled the barrel out of the sea using a rope and later started dragging it to the storeroom, as he assumed that it contained sake. But it seemed like his luck had run out like always. Pirates were standing on the door, ready to take his loot. He was helpless against them, a weak, pathetic cabin boy who couldn't even protect himself. He stood there with his head hung low, as the pirates approached the barrel with a smirk. He saw one of them about to punch the barrel but instantly got a jump scare when a straw hat wearing kid broke out of it. "Man, that was a good nap," the straw hat wearing kid chirped happily, as if he wasn't in a deadly situation with two pirates before him carrying their swords. The pirate who had attempted to punch the barrel lay knocked out on the ground, increasing the fury of the other two, whose jaws were wide open but hands on their weapons. "Who are you guys?" The straw hat wearing kid tilted his head curiously at the two pirates who shouted back at him about who he was. It was comical to say the least. Kobe would have laughed out if he wasn't surrounded by strong pirates outside of his league. He didn't want the straw hat kid to be captured like him, to suffer and beg like him for a day to live. He would hate himself if the kid got trapped in the hellhole which he is in, where he isn't even allowed to dream. The pirates swung their swords before Kobe could move. His eyes closed instinctively, fearing the worst. He wanted to protect the kid who looked even younger than him. He wanted to protest and shout at the pirates to leave them alone, but not a single word left his mouth as he stood frozen in his place. He waited for the sickening sound of flesh being cut off or blood squashing on his face, but when only the sound of bodies thudding on the floor came, he opened his eyes fearfully, not wanting to see the kid dead on the floor. But what he saw was something completely different than what he could ever think of. The pirates were laying on the ground, unconscious, while the kid was getting himself out of the barrel. A sigh of relief escaped City's mouth. "Are you alright? Did you get hurt?" Kobe asked the kid nervously, but in reality, he could see no scratches or fear on the grinning teen. How had he managed to knock out the three pirates? Maybe the pirates were weak due to slacking off. Yeah, that seems like the right answer because only Alvida was the strongest one on the entire ship. "I'm fine." The kid spoke with a bright grin on his face. "I'm Luffy. What's with them?" the kid Luffy asked innocently after introducing himself. As if a switch was turned on in Kobe's brain, he remembered where he was and whispered, run. Others will come back soon and he'll be killed. Or captured like himself, but he doesn't believe Alvida would keep any other alive. "But I am hungry." Kobe was baffled at the whine the kid let out with an innocent pout on his lips. The kid was too carefree for Kobe's liking. But he would not let him be captured and have the same misfortune as him or worse let him die because he was too weak to protect him. Luffy didn't wait for an answer from the pink-haired boy as he was already walking to the direction his nose was guiding him to, the barrels filled with food. "These look great." He let out an excited whoop and dumped the meat jerkies in his mouth. My name is Kobe." Kobe let out when he realized that he couldn't leave Luffy alone. Kobe noted that he looked a year or two younger than him. He was scrawnier than him, more innocent and carefree. "Is this a pirate ship?" Luffy asked, munching on the food, after a while. "Yes, it's the pirate ship of Alvida-sama," Kobe answered meekly. Luffy nodded. He hadn't heard the name ever. Maybe it was an upstart pirate or some weakling whose name neither the revolutionaries bothered to remember nor his mother. "Do you know if there are any boats on the board?" Luffy asked with his mouth full. Kobe nodded as he led Luffy to the inner docks of the ship to show him a boat, which he has been building secretly for the past 2 years. The boat loined, to be honest. Kobe saw how generous the boy was when he said, "Don't you need the boat? You don't look like you want to stay here." "I want to escape from here, but whenever I think about it," Kobe shuddered, remembering what happened to an old crew member. "The big iron mace of Alvida-sama appears before me. The mace which would slam onto his head and finish him with one blow." Kobe then explained how he left for fishing 2 years ago to accidentally walk onto the ship of these pirates. How miserable his life has been since then, being the chore boy of the ship. "You're pretty stupid and useless, and you seem kind of wimpy too. I don't like you." Kobe's lips wobbled at the blunt reply of Luffy, who was smiling throughout the ordeal. He knew it was the truth. He was too cowardly to take a stand for himself. Kobe failed to see how Luffy was trying to agitate him to leave the ship and stand up for himself. "Where are your parents?" Kobe uttered, wanting to forget the insult. He was really curious too of why a parent would leave a carefree kid like Luffy alone. "At home." Luffy replied through a huge grin. "Why are you here then?" Kobe asked, getting worried for the Straw Hat Boy. Maybe Luffy was in a ship which got stowed away. "I'm sailing to become the Pirate King," Luffy exclaimed loudly, shouting out his dream for Kobe to hear. Kobe's jaw dropped to the ground at the mere declaration. PP Pirate King? The one who has everything in the world? Kobe found himself getting hysterical. Maybe his dream is even more probable than the kids before him. "Are you telling me that you're looking for the world's greatest treasure, the One Piece? You want to die or something? All the pirates in the world are looking for that treasure." Kobe saw Luffy pout, cross his arms over his chest and his leg on the other as he replied affirmative. "Impossible. Absolutely impossible. Utterly impossible. To become the Pirate King in the pirate era, there's no chance. Utterly impossible." Kobe's head throbbed as he was booked on the head by Luffy bonking him, making him cry out in pain. "Why'd you hit me?" Kobe whimpered out, holding his head. "'Cause I felt like it," Luffy answered simply with a little pout on his face. "Oh well, I'm used to it anyway." Kobe let out a nervous laugh, eyes on the ground. He was slowly beginning to realize that he would never reach his dream since he couldn't even stand up against a guy younger than himself. Unknown to Kobe, whirls of emotion flooded inside of Luffy. The one of hopelessness of not being able to leave what his duty was in previous life. The fear of being lonely again. Luffy jumped from the counter, leaving the thoughts. His hands clutched his locket and straw hat, making him realize that he wasn't lonely. "I'm not afraid of dying, because it's my dream and that's why I won't mind dying for it," Luffy declared with a bright grin on his face as he looked at Kobe. A spark of hope ignited inside of Kobe as he looked at the pure determination and resolution radiating in the eyes of Luffy. "Won't even mind death?" Kobe asked in disbelief. In his short life, he had met a lot of people, but everyone was scared of death. For once he thought Luffy was lying, but he couldn't find it. He saw Luffy look outside through the only window in the storeroom, the sun shining brightly on his sun-kissed son and his grin getting impossibly brighter. "Yep, besides that, I have done it way before. I can do it once again, even if it gets tougher in this era." Kobe didn't understand a single word which Luffy uttered, but his mind was already focusing on one single sentence. Luffy isn't afraid to die for his dream. Something clicked inside Kobe for the first time. Death. Why should he fear it? It has to come for everyone one day, but that doesn't mean that he has to give up on his dream because it's too dangerous or seemingly impossible. Stream of tears left his eyes, wetting his cheeks as hope was bubbling inside his heart. Will I be also able to accomplish my dream, if I'm willing to die for it? Kobe asked with a shaky voice, as he looked at Luffy's brown chocolatey eyes. Even if he was scared that his hope would be stamped on, he dared to ask further, will I be able to become a Marine? An impossibly wider smile lit up on Luffy's face at his words. He could tell that there was something more to it, but Kobe couldn't place it at all. "Marine?" he heard Luffy question with a look which was filled with pride. "Yes, I know it means that we'll be enemies, but joining the Marines and catching bad guys has always been my dream," Kobe declared to Luffy without hesitation. All the confusion and uncertainty he had ever felt about his dream had vanished. "I wouldn't know until you try," Luffy answered playfully to Kobe. "No, I'll do it. If I'm gonna be a chore boy for the rest of my life, then I'll train myself and break out of here and catch Alvida-sama." "No, Alvida!" Kobe shouted in determination, feeling a surge of adrenaline pumping in his veins. But unfortunately, his luck and determination faded away as an iron mace destroyed his year's worth of hard work, his escape vessel, his coffin boat. A strangled cry left Kobe's mouth as he fell on his knees and noticed the towering figure of the one who he had scored to catch above him. Out of fear, he didn't even see the shadowed face of Luffy and the anger coursing through him. All Kobe could see was their death standing before them. Alvida and the other pirates. He could even see some of them snickering in the back. "You're gonna team up with him to catch who?" Alvida's dark thunderous voice rang in Kobe's ears, making his whole body tremble and shake in fear. He couldn't even speak a word. "You don't seem to be Zoro," Alvida continued as she studied the scrawny teen wearing a straw hat, with a sharp grin on her chubby face. "Zoro," Luffy repeated the name, not sure who the person was, but he vaguely remembers hearing his name from somewhere. Alvida ignored the kid to call out her little slave, who freaked out in fear. "Before you die, I'm gonna ask you who's the most beautiful of all in these seas?" Alvida questioned Kobe, who was on the verge of crying. This was it for him. He was going to die. All the years of suffering were going to be over, and he couldn't even try to become a Marine. Kobe's eyes flickered to Luffy, wanting to apologize for not protecting him, when he saw the hooded look Luffy was giving. He was almost terrified by it, but the conversation which they had just moments earlier flooded in his mind. He gulped, sterling his eyes and closed his fists tight, as he finally looked Alvida straight in her eyes for the first time in his life. He could feel his heart pump the loudest, in fear and determination as he spoke out the words, which he was sure would be his last. "In all the seas, Alvida." Kobe spoke, trying to calm his beating heart and shaking body. He looked at Luffy for the last time before locking his eyes at Alvida's. He could see the fat-ass woman already gritting her teeth and eyes glaring daggers at him for committing the felony. But Kobe wasn't going to back off now, not when he gets to be brave for once in his life. Even if he was going to die, he would be happy to know that he was brave and took a step towards his dream. So, he stood up on his shaking legs and shouted out loud, "Is the most ugly, rudest damned bitch of an old hag." Adrenaline pumped in his veins as he closed his eyes shut, preparing for the iron mace to make him a bloody pancake. "Very well, Kobe." Kobe's eyes flew open when he heard Luffy's voice too close. The sight left him crying. Luffy was crushed under the iron mace which was meant for him. "Lu!" His cries were shut off when he saw Luffy sprang up like a springboard. "That won't work on me." Luffy grinned and took in the shocked looks of the pirates. Without any further wait, he punched the fat whale in her stomach, making her fly through the ship, leaving a gaping hole. The pirates were stunned in shock. Too speechless to utter a single word and too afraid to vote for Kobe. He wants to join the Marines, so, stay out of his way. Luffy warned the rest of the pirates with a sharp grin on his face, making the pirates scramble off instantly with screams of fear. Kobe's eyes filled with happy tears as Luffy's magical laughter resounded in his mind. Freedom. Joy. Relief. Every positive emotion flooded within Kobe as he looked at his savior, someone who he will forever look up to. He couldn't believe that he was finally free. And all because of Luffy. He will be eternally grateful to him, to give him a reason to believe in his dream, to sprinkle the seeds of hope and bring happiness in his life once more. "Looks like we got away," Kobe mumbled as he looked at the pirate ship which was now being attacked by Marines. "Phew, that was fun." Luffy laughed from where he sat. Luffy?" Kobe asked, making Luffy turn towards him with his ever-present grin on his face. "If you're looking for One Piece, that means you will go to the Grand Line, right?" "Yeah," Luffy said with the widest grin he had till now seen on his face. "But that place is known as the Pirates' Graveyard," Kobe stated as a matter of fact. His sentence didn't even deter the ever-present smile on his face. "Yeah, that's why I need a strong crew and one of them is being held captive at the place you're going." Kobe's eyes widened as he realized that Luffy was speaking about none other than the famous pirate hunter Roronoa Zoro. He froze when the rumors about the said pirate hunter ran in his mind. "Luffy, you should not try to recruit him," Kobe uttered frantically to the teenager, whom he had come to respect since the last few hours. "He is a demon, a criminal." He really hoped his words would sway Luffy, but to his utter dismay, Luffy dug his pinky in his nose and asked, "So? He will not hesitate to kill you." Kobe tried to point out the obvious. Even if Luffy was strong enough to beat Alvida, Kobe didn't think that he would be stronger than Roronoa Zoro. He didn't want his savior to get killed by a bloodthirsty pirate hunter. Luffy smiled brightly with his signature laugh. "If Zoro would be a good guy, then I would ask him to join, otherwise not." That made Kobe feel a bit relieved. The sky darkened as the serene night arrived. Besides the twinkling stars, there was no source of light in the dark ocean. The wind was blowing softly, and the waves were swaying calmly, as if a mother was lulling her child to a peaceful slumber. Kobe was enjoying the slightly cold weather and his freedom, which he had gotten after 2 years of constant suffering. It was all thanks to Luffy, who was staring at the stars with a wide grin on his face. The silence was comforting rather than awkward. Kobe could hear Luffy snickering at times and his sun-kissed skin glowing or grinning, as if he was hearing some tales carried by the wind. Kobe doesn't remember when he fell asleep to the soft swaying of the waters and fell in the land of dreams where he was a marine and capturing bad guys. But when he woke up next, he found their boat near the shore of Shell's town, which shouldn't have happened. Kobe remembers anchoring their boat, but maybe Luffy might have pulled it out. But he was still sleeping, curled up against his backpack. "We have made it," Luffy shouted with excitement, getting off the little boat, which Kobe guided safely into the port behind him. Kobe and Luffy began walking through the town together, Luffy with a grin of excitement and Kobe with a look of nervousness. "Seriously, you are crazy to want him to join you," Kobe tried to reason with his new friend once more. "I haven't decided yet," Luffy chirped honestly. "He's been caught because he's a bad guy." Kobe tried to reason for the umpteenth time, stopping in the middle of the street while Luffy continued to walk forward, stopping at a fruit stand, picking a pear and tossing a coin to the woman running the stand. "Do you know why Zoro's being held at the base?" Luffy asked him, but they were immediately met with everyone jumping away in shock. "It seems the name, Zoro, is a taboo here," Kobe whispered to Luffy, who looked at the people who were looking at him with wide eyes. Did they recognize him? But Alvida wasn't able to. and his face was not in his wanted poster even. Maybe it could be related to the guy, Zoro? Let's check out the base, Luffy said, frowning a bit. You're gonna be a marine, right? He asked as they walked towards the base again. Why yes. But I'm not really ready yet, Kobe answered, looking at his hands. It all still felt like a dream to him. Rumor has it, Captain Morgan is at this base and… Just like Zoro's name, the townspeople who had gradually started doing their work, jumped away in shock, but the only difference was that this time the reaction was more intense and scarier. The mere name had the civilians running. Luffy laughed at the reaction. People were really funny to him, but Kobe was having a bad feeling about all of this. He could understand why the people would be scared after hearing the name of the pirate hunter because he could escape any time, but why would they be afraid of a marine captain? When he questioned this out loud, he saw Luffy give him a small smile and look at the sky, the sun rays falling on his skin and the light wind ruffling his hair. After a fine good minute, Luffy finally spoke. Not all marines are good. The voice held a little pain, which was strange for the teenager, who did nothing but smile since he had met him. But his words couldn't be accepted by Kobe, even if he could sense that Luffy was speaking the truth. A bad guy? But he's a marine. Kobe defended immediately, suddenly remembering that Luffy was a pirate and was supposed to be a bad guy, but he wasn't. When he expected Luffy to argue about it, he only gave him a small smile. Kobe just can't accept the fact that marines, the people who save innocents, are bad. That's impossible. He wouldn't unless he is given proof. Marines are heroes, not villains. He didn't even notice when they stood in front of the towering gray marine base. The way to his dreams stood before him, yet he couldn't shake off the feeling that he wasn't ready to join the Marines yet. He saw Luffy climb up the towering wall, which was thrice his size. Luffy, what are you doing? Kobe asked the moment he saw Luffy jump down from the wall and run to another side, which Kobe chose to follow him. I saw something over there. It could be Zoro. Kobe's eyes blinked in disbelief. Why would the pirate hunter be on the grounds and not in the cells? But still he followed Luffy as he climbed the wall pretty easily again. The moment he saw that black bandana and green haramaki around the waist and felt the intimidating aura, he knew he was looking at the pirate hunter, Roronoa Zoro. That's him. That's our Roronoa Zoro. Kobe stuttered as he fell off the ground and on his butt in fear and shock. So, he's Zoro. Luffy grinned looking at the pirate hunter tied to the pole. Those ropes look pretty easy to break. Stop joking. If you free him, he could make a mess in the town and even kill you. Kobe yelled. He didn't want his first friend to die due to his recklessness. But who was he kidding? No one ever listened to him. Zoro was feeling tired of waiting for a month to pass. He didn't like to stay here, but he had a promise to keep. If he doesn't do this, Rika would be in danger. Tied up in the cross, smelly, stinky and starved, Zoro heard voices. He lifted his head and found two heads popping up from the wall and looking at him. Hey, you, Zoro said with a grin, which came out to be intimating, but he didn't care. Could you please come here and untie me? He spoke. He really wanted to release his muscles. They were too tense for his liking. I've been tied up for 9 days and I'm exhausted. Lucky is smiling, the Straw Hat Boy said to the pink-haired one who ducked lower. He talked, the pink-haired boy, who looked like a scaredy cat yelped. I'll repay you. I can hunt down a fugitive and give you the rewards. I'm not lying. I'll keep my word. He saw the straw-hatted boy about to come over to him, when the pink-haired started warning him. Don't do it, Luffy, don't be tricked by his words. If you free him, he'll kill us and escape. The pink-haired boy warned and Zoro felt a headache coming through. He really wanted to be left loose, at least for a minute. He can't kill me cause I'm strong too. Zoro snorted at the word of the teen. He really looked like a preteen with his face. All those baby fat and big doe eyes made him look more younger. If Zoro had to guess by seeing the teen's face, he would say he is at least 14 and the boy beside him must be 15 or 16. But before the teen could come over to him, a ladder was placed beside them and Rika, the little girl, came up and shushed them. She peeked around the courtyard, and once she found that the coast was clear she hung a rope down using it to climb down the other side of the wall. Once she was down, she began running towards him, which made the pink-haired brat freak out. Zoro watched as the girl, carrying something wrapped in a paper, approached him. He ignored the yells of the pink-haired boy trying to warn Rika. What are you doing here? Zoro asked in an angry voice. He didn't want Rika to stay here even for a minute. What if a marine came up and punished her? He is tied up and he can't get free of the ropes holding him to protect the little girl. And he couldn't leave it on the teens on the wall to be of any help. Kobe was freaking out at the sight of the pirate hunter shouting at the little girl. He didn't want the girl to be dead. But one look on Luffy said to just watch and not act. Why don't you do it yourself? Luffy asked when he asked him to save the girl. Kobe was scared and he couldn't move. He watched as the girl offered onigiri to the pirate hunter, only for the swordsman to yell at her to go away. Then a young man in a suit and 2 marines came in. He must be someone important. Thank goodness. The girl is safe now. Kobe breathed a sigh of relief. But the worst thing he saw was the blonde man stepping on the food prepared by the girl and stomping it. It was so cruel. That girl had worked so hard to make them and was crying now. Kobe looked at Zoro, who was growling at the captain's son. Then looked at Luffy, who was watching everything with his hat shadowing his eyes. The air felt heavy and cold. And then the worst thing happened. That blonde man ordered the Marines to throw the little girl over the wall. He was too shocked to do anything, but luckily, Luffy caught the girl. Kobe snapped out of his shock and went to check over her. Kobe, Luffy spoke in a calm voice. Take her to her house. Kobe nodded without waiting. Luffy jumped over the wall and walked to Zoro, who looked at him with eyes filled with anger, but he knew that behind the anger was worry for the little girl. Behind the anger was a flame burning in his heart. You still haven't left? Zoro asked after finding his voice. When he met the teen's eyes, he stilled. It was the moment when he felt the vast power hidden behind the scrawny baby look of the teenager standing in front of him. Those eyes looked as if they were looking into his soul, reading each story of Zoro's life, without judgment but just curiosity. Zoro was about to avert his eyes from the big brown eyes, when he saw them flicker to gold and red. Zoro's breath caught in the throat. Last he had heard no one could change the color of their irises. He blinked his eyes to look clearly, but the golden red irises were nowhere to be seen. It must be the sunlight. Zoro tried to calm his fast-beating heart. Zoro looked at the teen in front of him, who was grinning widely. Yo, I'm Luffy. If I loosen up the ropes, then you're gonna join my pirate crew, okay? Zoro raised his eyebrows. Why would you want to be a pirate? Pirate? Hey, so you gave up on life and became a crook, huh? The one person whom he felt worthy of being his opponent was asking him to be a pirate. What a joke. It's my dream, the boy chirped happily, as if Zoro had never commented on being a pirate was a bad idea at the first place. There's nothing wrong with being a pirate. Being a pirate is wrong. At least for Zoro. Pirates are evil, but from no angle the boy looked evil, but he looked the exact definition of innocent. Zoro is not good at studying people. But he could tell that the kid can't do any harm. But who is he kidding? Of all people, Zoro should know to not judge a person by their face. Don't tell me you're gonna set me free and force me to join you, Zoro said in an annoyed voice. The brat pouted at him and looked about to whine, like a kicked puppy, but then he grinned. You will join me, the brat said with a bright smile. The surety in his voice even made Zoro stop for a second. I'll never join you because I have something that I need to take care of, Zoro said truthfully. It was not due to the fact that he hated being a pirate and hated the bright smile given to him. I could survive even if you don't help me. I can survive for a month and I'll be set free. That idiot son promised me. I'm gonna do everything I can to stay alive and fulfill my dreams. Zoro grinned at the thought of why he set out to sea. He hoped that his would get through the thick skull of the wannabe pirate boy, but the boy looked at him in awe. If I were you, I think I'd starve to death in a week. That's why we're different. Go find someone else to join you, Zoro said, seeing the boy study him with his hands in his pockets. Zoro felt his stomach growling and ache, and he eyed the onigiris, wondering if he should ask the boy or not. You want it? The boy said, pointing the muddy food on the ground, and picked it when he nodded. But it is all muddy now. Well, I guess you can't be picky when you are hungry. Zoro opened his mouth wide, gesturing to just deposit the food. He chewed the food even if it was all muddy. He swallowed it. He didn't notice how the boy smiled at the action, but he felt grateful. He coughed and his shadowed eyes hid his happiness of getting some food to his crying and grumbling stomach. Tell that little girl, the rice balls taste very good. Thank you very much, Zoro said, and his coughing ceased. He looked at the boy whose smile was splitting his face into two, which was practically impossible for anyone. Why don't you come and tell her on your own? Luffy grinned cockily. If you are blackmailing me for joining you and becoming a pirate, then give up, Zoro said with a sigh. If I say please, then? The brat pouted, making shiny puppy eyes. Zoro's sweat dropped at it. Which pirate tells please, join me and makes puppy eyes? I've told you clearly. Zoro gritted his teeth. I have things that I need to do, besides I'm not going to be a bad guy like a pirate. Why do you care? He saw the teen cross his arms over his chest and look at him. Everyone already thinks you are a bad guy. Zoro was getting tired with the conversation, but it was also good to talk to someone after not speaking to anyone for days. I don't care what they say about me, Zoro said truthfully. I haven't not done one thing I regretted in the past, and it will be the same for the future. I won't become a pirate. Zoro saw the bratty teen huff and say, spite him reasoning with him. I don't care. You're joining me. Don't decide yourself, Zoro said with shark teeth. He was really getting angry, but a part of him thought or considered being a pirate. Not that it matters. You use katana, right? Luffy said with his cheerful attitude. How did the boy know that he as a swordsman was beyond his comprehension? Luffy didn't look like the type of guy who would invest his ears in any new information. Yeah, but that stupid bastard took them, Zoro said, calming down from his previous anger. I'll go get it back for you, Luffy proposed. What? He can't believe the bratty, lanky, scrawny teen is about as infiltrate into the marine base all for him and risk his life. He liked the guy. He could feel the conviction and determination in his voice only for making him join. "So if you want your sword, join my crew," Luffy said with a smile. All pity for the boy vanished in thin air. "You're getting on my nerves," Zoro shouted, but a part of him wanted to be free. Wanted to check if Kuina's sword was okay or not. He would never forgive himself if he lost that. It's not that the kid will even lie by getting inside the tiger's den, but before he can say so, Luffy dashed to the marine base. "It's the most weirdest day of my stay in this island," Zoro thought. Zoro could not help but scowl at the scrawny kid getting inside the marine base, forgetting his katanas and making him forced to join him. The kid was weird to say the least. The way he moved, the way his eyes scanned the marine base showed recognition. His eyes looked as if he had seen these things countless of times. His eyes at Zoro, on his dirty smelly self, didn't show pity or disgust but pure belief. Belief on what? That Zoro won't betray the kid? That he won't refuse the kid's offer? Zoro wasn't sure. But one thing that he was sure was that despite the kid's scrawny, innocent stature, the kid was powerful. The kid's eyes when he had looked at him felt as if he knew. But what did Luffy know about what or why was he doing what he was? But would Luffy be safe roaming around the base alone? Zoro didn't want to dwell in his thoughts and was luckily snapped out of it by the pink-haired boy who was with Luffy. "Where is Luffy?" the brat asked him. "Oh, and I'm Kobe." Luffy went to the marine base, Zoro replied nonchalantly, not bothering to say why he had gone. He thought the boy would ask, when he saw the boy trying to open his ropes. "Oi," Zoro warned the teen. "If you help me, they are going to kill you." He doesn't care about deaths, but death of innocence never sits well with him. "You shouldn't be arrested," Kobe said, trying to open the knots of the ropes. "I can't stand those kinds of marines. I'm going to become a real marine. Just like the way Luffy is determined to become the Pirate King." Zoro narrowed his eyes on the teen. The scrawny kid being a Pirate King? That's a big dream as his. The respect for Luffy increased in his heart. But still it felt like a joke to him. The kid must be joking, right? Haha. The kid laughed a nervous laugh. I was a bit shocked when I first heard him, but he's serious. Before Zoro could react on Kobe's words, Kobe was shot in his shoulder, making him fly a good 3 feet away from Zoro. "Are you alright?" Zoro asked the kid, who was screaming in pain. "Run for your life. They are almost here." A group of Marines were coming his way and Zoro didn't know what to do. Ah. Kobe was crying in pain, but denying to leave him alone. "I got to set you free as soon as possible. There is no use in giving up life for him. Moreover, he would be freed in a month." But as soon as he let his thoughts be known, Kobe was standing up, shakingly. "They will not set you free because they're gonna kill you in 3 days," the brat said, and Zoro's eyes widened and he halted in his tracks to shout at the kid to scram off. They promised him to free him if he survives a month. "Helmeppo never intended to keep his promise because he was toying with you," Kobe said with a sour taste in his mouth. Zoro mentally laughed at himself. Why did he trust these people? That these Marines will leave him alone after he completed his promise. 9 days of him being tied up, starved and dehydrated, not that he cared. But the gall of them not keeping their end of promise felt wrong. "The Marines will never let the two of you off. Please, after I set you free, please help rescue Luffy." Zoro didn't say anything. The boy had gone inside for him, and a part of him feels that Luffy knew from the beginning that he was not about to be freed, but that feels so surreal. "I'll not force you to become a pirate, however, he's my savior." Kobe was kneeling on the ground in front of him. "Luffy is very strong. As long as you two join forces, you all will definitely be able to escape this town." Zoro knew one thing. That is, he can't die here. He has a promise to fulfill and he will do anything to survive. He won't die today even if the Marines pointing their gun to him say otherwise. He can't die. "Surround them." It was Captain Morgan who shouted. The Marines had already surrounded them, and pointed their gun to them. "How interesting, the 3 of you are planning to cause political upheaval." Zoro doesn't like where things are going. With him tied up, he can't do anything, he felt useless. With the gun pointing at him, Zoro realizes that he is so close to dying. He has made a promise, he can't die here. Fire! Not even a single bullet hit him or Kobe. In front of him stood the kid with his katanas strapped at his back. He can't believe the boy sacrificed himself in order to keep him and Kobe alive. "Luffy," Kobe was crying. "Straw Hat," Morgan said with veins on his forehead. All at once everyone was shouting, their fear rising within them, but it wasn't necessary as they saw Luffy's skin stretch in each spot that held a bullet. The boy curled in on himself, allowing the pull to become a push. "It's no use," the boy sprang up to life. The bullets bounced off his body and went hayway, not hitting anyone. Zoro saw Kobe getting up from his place and coming towards him and continuing his work. "What the hell are you?" Zoro yelled his question. Luffy turned towards him, with a cocky grin. She. I am the one who will become the Pirate King," Luffy said, yelling to everyone in the courtyard. He ignored the looks of shock coming from the Marines and turned to Zoro, giving him his infamous D grin. Here's your treasure, he said, unstrapping the katanas from his back. Resisting the Marines here will make you an outlaw. Staying with me will make your life riskier. Zoro didn't know the Straw Hat Boy was possible of tact. Or maybe you want to die here. What are you? The devil's son, Zoro said with a smirk, making Luffy laugh carefree. Forget it. I'll be a pirate if I'm gonna die here instead, Zoro said, still grinning. Woohoo! Zoro's sweat dropped as he saw Luffy going in circles with cheers and doing a little victory dance, not even caring about the Marines in front of him. That's great, I got a crewmate. Okay, hurry and get these ropes off of me, Zoro yelled in desperation, looking at the Marines who were watching with a shocked look on their faces. Luffy immediately got to work on trying to untie the ropes, not bothering to look at the Marines who were talking among themselves. Damn, these knots are tight, Luffy whined as he tugged at them, but Zoro could see the ropes were tightening across his arms more. Hey, quit wasting time, Zoro yelled, noticing that the Marines looked to be preparing themselves. Fine, Luffy said, with a Cheshire grin. He could have used Haki, but he isn't going to use it so early, so he did what he can. A powerful gust of wind blew, tearing the ropes in his hand, making it loosen in an instant. His grin widened when he saw Zoro grab his swords, fitting perfectly as he had heard his mother say, and using them to block all the Marines at once. So cool, Zoro heard Luffy say. Move and you're dead, Zoro growled to him, stiffen in fear. Too scary. One of them cried. I already told you I'd be a pirate with you. Either way, after this incident with the Marines I'll be an outlaw too. But it's okay, I still have my own goals, Zoro told Luffy, whose grin was getting impossibly wider. Goals? I'm going to become the world's greatest swordsman. I no longer care if my name is clean or not. Bad guy or good guy, it no longer matters. As long as my name is known worldwide. With one push he pushed away the Marines, making them fall on their butt. He stood tall and looked at the boy in front of him. If you do something that ends up in the way of my goal, you'd better accept responsibility and apologize to me on the end of my sword. Good, Luffy grinned. The king of pirates needs the best on his side. What are you guys standing there for? Slaughter them this instant, the Marines shrieked in terror at Morgan's words while Luffy's grin turned more deadly. Duck, Zoro, Luffy told Zoro, swinging his foot back. There was a brief moment of shock from Zoro before he did as told. Gomu Gomu no whip. Luffy's leg whipped over him and knocked over the Marines. Zoro noticed how Kobe had went stiff in shock as him with the elongated leg which kicked off the Marines. What the hell are you? Zoro asked Luffy, voicing everyone's question with it. Luffy turned towards him. The teen seemed to be thinking for a second with his face barely visible under his straw hat. He lifted his head to show a sunny smile, which shouldn't belong to the battlefield, stretching his mouth past human limits, he said. I am a rubber man. Luffy was sweating, showing he wasn't telling the full truth but they can wait. Captain, we don't stand a chance against them, these guys are crazy. We can't even handle Zoro, much less that kid. This is a direct order, Morgan shouted, drawing Zoro, Luffy and Kobe's attention back to him. Everyone who spouted weakness just now must shoot themselves in the head. I have no need for weak soldiers, Morgan ordered, much to Luffy's annoyance. These troops are mental, Zoro commented, taking in fighting position. Luffy, Zoro heard Kobe say and saw Luffy heading to Morgan, crush this navy. Running through the Marines to the leader, Luffy grinned. His arm swung to the captain, who blocked it with his large axe hand but was sliding back from the mere force Luffy was giving. With a burst of anger for these Marines who had tainted Kobe's dream and held his crewmate Zoro, he shattered the axe in Morgan's hands and hit him, making fly backward. Hold it, Straw Hat, Helmeppo shouted from behind him before Zoro could get rid of his shock. He saw his captain looking to Kobe, who was shaking in fear but grinned suddenly. If you value this guy's life, don't move, Helmeppo shouted, but regardless Luffy stalked to him. Luffy, I don't want to get in your way, even if it means dying, Kobe shouted, genuinely meaning his words. Yeah, I know, Zoro saw Luffy smile and grab his bicep. From behind, Morgan was getting up looking all angered. Give it up, stupid son, Kobe really is ready to die. Don't move, I told you not to move, I'll shoot, Helmeppo shouted once again. Gomu Gomu no. I'm Navy Captain, axe hand, Morgan. Dad, kill him, quick, pistol, at once. Luffy threw his punch at Helmeppo, knocking the blonde into the wall on the other side of the courtyard, while Zoro slashed through Morgan, who had attempted to behead Luffy with one of the soldiers' swords. Nice, Zoro, he heard Luffy speak, his arms snapping back in place. My pleasure, Captain, Zoro said, facing him with his own grin. Silence. The Marines looked at their captain. He was unmoving, he didn't get up again, he was down. Captain Morgan is defeated. We are free. We are out of Morgan's control. Weapons and caps were thrown in the air. Marines started dancing with each other, surprising Zoro, who thought that they would need to fight them too. Everyone's happy that their captain's been beaten, he asked with a raised eyebrow. Everyone was just afraid of Morgan, Kobe answered gleefully as if it made all sense. Zoro suddenly twitched and then fell onto his back, Kobe freaking out while Luffy lifted the man, giving him his shoulder to lean. "What's wrong, Zoro-san? Are you hurt?" Kobe asked as he rushed over to the man. "I'm hungry. Man, I'm stuffed," Zoro said as he felt his stomach being filled after such a long time. With a smile, he leaned back in his chair to look at Luffy, who was still eating and stacking stacks of plates one by one on his side. "How the heck can you have a bigger appetite than me?" Zoro asked, eyebrows raised in disbelief. Zoro had literally been starving after all, and Luffy was still eating as if he'd been the one to go weeks without meals. "It tastes good, right, Kobe?" Luffy asked Kobe, who sat at the bar where Rika's mother was smiling and cleaning dishes. Rika was nearby as well, carrying dirty dishes from the table Luffy and Zoro sat at and bringing them to her mother. "Thank you for treating me to food too," Kobe said, rubbing the back of his head as he addressed Rika's mom. She smiled at him, continuing to clean. "It's no problem. The town has been saved after all," she said cheerfully. "You really are amazing," Rika told to Luffy with a wide smile, which the rubber boy returned with 10 folds of his own. "Yep, I am. She, the boy laughed. "'Cause I am going to be the king of pirates. And I even have my own crew," the boy said, looking at Zoro, who smiled at the enthusiasm. "So, how many others have you gathered besides me?" he asked, watching Luffy take another large bite of meat. The boy blinked at him. "It's just you," he said simply, returning to focus on his meal. "Huh?" Zoro pointed between the two of them in shock while Luffy nodded. "Yep, just us two," Luffy confirmed his doubt. Zoro's head was paining pretty badly now. 2 people can't make a pirate crew. "And what about a ship? Where's your pirate ship?" Zoro asked, hoping against all odds that the boy did have one. "There," Luffy pointed. Zoro looked at the window to the boat which Luffy pointed. We'll have a ship this big soon," Luffy said, demonstrating with his hand at how big he wanted his future ship to be. The sight of comical, making Zoro laugh. "And a pirate flag too. Yeah, Luffy said to himself, ignoring Zoro completely. Zoro rubbed his forehead, wondering which reckless idiot he had gotten himself tagged with. "I think Luffy was born without any sense of planning," Kobe said with a nervous chuckle. "Did I really make this kid my captain?" Zoro asked himself, seeing Luffy continuing to smile all the while eating. Hey, Rika asked, jumping with the same enthusiasm as that of Luffy. Zoro was beginning to wonder if Luffy's smile and recklessness was infective, because the next moment, the plates in Rika's hands were threatening to fall over, which he had to catch to prevent it from happening. "Where are you guys gonna go now?" Rika asked before thanking Zoro. "Paradise," Luffy said with D grin. "Paradise?" the occupants in the bar asked. "Oops," Luffy said, rubbing his back of neck with a sheepish smile. "Grand Line, I mean. How did you mix Paradise with Grand Line? Besides, you still have only 2 crew members," Kobe shouted in disbelief. "You are still saying crazy things. How can you enter the Grand Line with just you 2? Don't you understand? The world's strongest pirates all gather there." Luffy pouted. "But I have been sailing those seas for he counted on his fingers, half a decade." Kobe's jaw dropped at the ground. What? You have came from the Grand Line?" Zoro seemed interested in the conversation and paid attention. She. Luffy dismissed the whole matter with his laugh. "Guess it can't be helped," Zoro said, leaning back in his chair with a grin, prepared to take on whatever challenges they would face hereafter. "Not you too, Zoro-san," Kobe moaned. "Oh," Luffy banged his fists on his palms. "Gain the occupants in the bar." "Kobe, you want to be Marine, right?" Kobe nodded. "I know someone who will willingly take you under him. I won't vote for anyone regarding my friends," Luffy huffed. "Am I really your friend?" Kobe asked with tears gathering in his eyes. "Yep," Luffy said with a beaming smile and placed his bag in front of him and put his hands inside it. After a few moments he started sweating. "Oops," he said, with sweat trickling down from his forehead. He emptied the backpack on a clean table and out came a red cloak, then some weird-looking needles encompassed in a glass, a compass, a scrapbook, few papers and some clothes in a pouch which made a clang on being dumped on the table. Luffy rummaged through the red cloak, shaking it, but nothing came out of it. "Shit, I'm gonna die," Zoro heard the teen mutter, but the next moment he cheered up and pushed the things back into the backpack. "Hey, miss," he chirped, jumping on his way to the Rika's mom. "Can I borrow your snail?" "Sure," the lady said, giving a pleasant smile and passed a snail to the boy. Luffy skipped to the table and picked up a paper from the rim of his straw hat and dialed a number. All the while Zoro and Kobe looked at him and the snail, which popped to life, curiously. Puru gacha, Vice Admiral Garp here," the snail responded. Silence. Zoro was wondering if Luffy had a death wish, and how the hell did the kid got Garp the hero's number. "G-chan," Luffy said, shattering the silence into pieces. "EHH," Kobe and the people who heard Luffy shouted, while Zoro's eyes widened. "Bawahaha," the snail responded. Does my adorable grandson need my help in the beginning of his journey? Nope. Luffy said, making the P sound like a pop sound. I got an appetize for you. Apprentice, Luffy. That's what I said. Luffy huffed adorably, making Zoro and some people think if he really was a pirate. I guess that you have lost your snail? About that. Luffy grinned sheepishly while rubbing his back. Please help me, otherwise Dad's gonna go on a rampage. Luffy whined. Huh? My idiot son? Garp said. Don't worry, I'll tell him for you. Thanks, Gigi. Luffy beamed. Where are you and where is my new apprentice? The Vice Admiral from the other side asked. Shell's Town, I'll be there soon, he said. Take care. Love ya, Gigi, Luffy said before disconnecting the snail and looking at the baffled expression of the people before him. What? He asked with his eyes blinking in confusion. Your grandpa is Garp the Fist? The people in the bar yelled together, making Luffy laugh. People sure are funny. Yep, he said, returning the snail to the nice bar lady, who looked a bit paler. I am going to be trained by the legendary hero, Kobe asked with fear. He had never thought of meeting the Marine, hell less that he would be trained by him. Yeah, Luffy said with a smile. Kobe was about to freak out, but a Marine disrupts them by entering the bar. Excuse me, the Marine said as he stood in front of Luffy, who looked at him with a smile on his face. We are wondering, are you really pirates? Yes, we are, Luffy chirped. We're all grateful that you saved our town and base, but as Marines we can't let you stay any longer. You will need to leave this island immediately. To show our gratitude, we won't report you to headquarters. The Marine finished his boring speech, making the town people angry on behalf of their saviors. Okay. Let's go, Zoro, Luffy said as he tossed the backpack on his shoulder. Hey, wait a second, the same Marine called them out, isn't he with you? I'm not with them, Kobe said while stuttering. Is he telling the truth? The Marine asked Luffy. I know this guy, Luffy said, laughing inwardly at what he was about to do. I don't remember where, but he used to be with this really big lady. I think her name was Almika. She was a fat and ugly pirate, he spent. Kobe had enough. He punched Luffy's face as hard as he could. He didn't want his dreams to be ruined by the one who showed him a hope right now, only to crush them. He couldn't believe that he was betrayed. Why you? Luffy retaliates, hitting Kobe back a few times until he was stopped by the Marines. Luffy smiled inwardly as he saw his plan being successful. He can plan when he wants. I know he's not your friend. Please leave this island immediately, the Marine yells at them. Kobe caught a glimpse of the smile on Luffy's face before the boy turns to leave and knew it was all done for him. He wanted to cry at how he needed Luffy's help even in the last moment. He felt useless, that he needed the push. Not letting the chance get away, Kobe stood tall and loudly asked to join the Marines. Don't you think you went overboard? Zoro asked about the Kobe incident once they got out of the bar. He'll be fine, Luffy laughs as they headed to the docks where their small boat was waiting for them, no one stopping them as they did. Luffy, Kobe's voice came to them, as they were undoing the ropes. Seeing that Kobe had Luffy's attention, Kobe saluted, standing up tall and straight. Thank you, I'll never forget all you've done for me, Kobe shouted. I've never seen a Marine salute a pirate before, Zoro said, whistling, making Luffy laugh. Getting onto the boat and setting sail, Luffy turned and waved to Kobe. Let's meet again someday, Kobe, he shouted, watching Kobe as he continued saluting. Group salute. A crowd of Marines appeared behind Kobe and Rika, who were waving at them, and they all saluted as Luffy and Zoro drifted out of the docks and onto the sea. See ya, I'm so hungry, Luffy groaned, holding his stomach and looking at the endless ocean. His mother seemed to be cooing at him, making him frown more. He was ready for his own adventures and didn't need to wait for 2 more years, as his mother always insisted. It's weird that you have absolutely no navigation skills, Zoro said, looking at him. Why shall I have? Luffy asked, titling his head. 'Cause you are a pirate, Zoro stated. But I don't understand those at all, Luffy pouted. And even Zoro don't know, even though Zoro is a wandering man. Luffy pointed out to the man, about whom he had heard stories from his mother last night. I was searching for a man, that's why I am wandering, but now I can't find my way home, Zoro said. Oh, so Zoro is lost. Shut up, you're the one who's lost, Zoro shouted in irritation. Damn it, with everyone telling him that he is the one to be lost always. So hungry. He heard Luffy whine and plop his head on the boat and look at the sky. When the hell are we gonna reach land? Zoro asked from where he sat. It had only been a couple of hours since they have left Shell's Town. Luffy sighed. I don't feel like cheating. You're weird, Zoro said to the boy, who was mumbling how he can't ask his mom's help. The boy sprang up and looked at Zoro with excitement. Zoro, do you know how to swim? The teen bounced in his place, all thoughts of hunger vanishing. Every pirate worth their salt knows, Zoro said with a sigh, when a horrible realization struck him. Don't tell me you don't. Luffy pouted at the accusation and rubbed his back. How did Zoro catch me? Zoro groaned with his palms hitting his own face in annoyance. Why did the hell I join you? Nay, can Zoro teach me? Luffy asked with his eyes shining with innocence and curiosity, and Zoro found it unable to resist. He turned his head to the other side and grumbled about stupid captains and idiot kids. "Fine," he said, throwing his shirt over his head and dropping himself to the ocean, where he began kicking his leg. "Come on, we don't have enough time," he said. "Well, at least the time will pass pretty soon with it and he can get some exercise." He looked at the boy, who let out a squeal of excitement and threw his red vest to the boat. Now that he looks at the kid, no, Captain, he looks more scrawnier than before, with his abs and collarbones visible. He can clearly see the silver necklace with the red crystal hangeth straw hat on his head, which he pushed it to his back. His wrists even had 2 bracelets, one made of pearl and the other of seashells. It looked pretty on the boy. Luffy jumped from the boat, and for once, Zoro felt afraid about the boy, who can probably drown in the water. "Idiot!" he yelled and dove in searching for the boy. He saw him struggling a bit, with his mouth and eyes open. He caught the boy easily and brought him to the surface of the water, holding him in position. "Don't go jumping in," he yelled at the kid, who just laughed. "Man, he really needs to stop calling his captain a kid. You could have drowned," he shouted again, making the boy pout. She. Sorry, Zoro." He didn't sound apologetic at all and just grinned brightly at him. With a sigh, he focused on the task in his hand. "Hold it," he said, and made Luffy hold the boat's sides. "And now start kicking with your legs." The boy, "No, Captain," did as he said. After a few minutes of watching him, he finally deemed that Luffy could do it on his own. He let him leave the railings and told to kick as he was doing. But within moments, Luffy was drowning all again. He groaned and went after the boy, who was laughing all again. "Are you even serious?" Zoro asked with anger coming from his voice. "Sorry, Zoro," he said, and he let him try to swim again, but again he flailed. This continued for a while, until Luffy got tired and his stomach started growling. "It's enough for today," Zoro said, holding Luffy and getting up the boat. "Can we do it again?" Luffy asked enthusiastically, wearing his red vest. "If you want," Zoro said with a groan. But how much he says, he hated to guide the boy to swim. He enjoyed it. At least after the boy learns to swim, he wouldn't need to dive after him to save him. "And what's with the straw hat?" Zoro asked. "Shouldn't you have took it out before swimming?" "It's my treasure," Luffy said, laying on the ground of the little boat with his head on the little backpack, and his stomach still groaning. "I can't part with it ever, like these." He pointed to the necklace and the bracelets in his hands. "So, they are pretty important to you then, huh?" Zoro asked as he observed Luffy looking at his trinkets with fondness. "Yeah," he said, grinning at him. "They're a promise to meet them again." Zoro didn't ask further about it. "So, your grandpa is Garp, the Fist?" Zoro asked. He had heard about the man a lot and how no pirates escaped from his grasp. So, how did the man didn't know about his own grandson going off to be a pirate? That was something Zoro was curious about. "Yeah," Luffy said, smiling. "How did he let you be a pirate? Or does he not know?" Zoro asked, eyeing the team captain. "He means." "He knows," Luffy said with a fond smile. "We had a long debate with him, and then finally he was able to see the truth that being a marine will only get our lives in danger." "Ours? You are speaking of as if you were the son of a devil," Zoro smirked. Luffy hummed. "Man, I'm hungry." He groaned, ignoring Zoro's curious looks, and looked at the sky again. Zoro sighed, having heard this multiple times and wondering how the team could be hungry after eating everything they had only a little while ago. Not to mention the food he had eaten in the marine base only hours ago. "A bird," Luffy said, making him look up to see what his captain was seeing. "Looks pretty tasty," Luffy said, licking his lips. "Let's eat it," he exclaimed, looking at him with his signature grin. "Huh? How?" Zoro asked, looking at the bird again. It was flying at quite an altitude. "Leave it to me," Luffy said as he stood and stretched his arms back, flinging them forward and grabbing onto the rigging. Gomu Gomu no rocket. With that, the team launched into the sky, straight towards the bird in question. "I see," Zoro said with a raised eyebrow, having forgotten that his captain was a rubber man. He watched as Luffy got smaller and smaller as he got higher before he stopped. He squinted, wondering how his body was lower than that of the bird's, yet he wasn't falling. "Help!" Luffy's voice called, and it was then he realized his new captain was an idiot, who got caught in the bird's mouth. "You idiot!" he shouted, springing up and rowing the boat as fast as he could. "What the heck are you doing?" Luffy pouted as his mother giggled at his latest antics of being caught by a bird which was not stopping and was continuing to fly. His mother's gentle voice echoed his ears, making him smile. He allowed himself to entertain his mother, but also tried to find a way from his current situation. He was bored as he waited for something to happen. If he wanted, he could have got rid of the bird easily, but the giggles from his mother and the presence of people ahead of him made him to stay in his current position. Finally, after a few minutes of the bird flying, Luffy saw an island below them and grinned. "Oi, bird, let me down now," he said with a huge grin on his face. It was the first island in his journey and he was excited to explore it. Zoro will find him, so he was not worried about him. But the bird was not leaving him and they were already midway over the island. That was when he felt danger coming for him and he started flailing his legs. "Bird! Let me down," he shouted, but it was too late as a cannonball hit them, exploding and forcing the bird to let go of him. He screamed, flailing as he began falling to the ground, and before he knew it he crashed into the stone pavement. What? A woman's voice came, making him look from the crater which he had created to the voice. But all he saw was white dusty fog which surrounded him. Someone. Another voice came, and this time it was of a man. Fell from the sky? Another man said in shock. That was fun, he grinned, holding onto his hat as he looked around, finding men on the ground looking surprised and shocked. They were likely the guys who were speaking and were pirates. There was a woman in front of him, who looked shocked and a bit afraid. Nami didn't know what to do. She has just stolen a map of Grand Line from the Buggy pirates and was running for her life. But right now, she was on a stop. Someone had fallen from the sky and that someone made it alive and was around the age of 14. Nami didn't know what she should do. Should she continue to run for her life or take the kid with her? If the boy would have been around 16 she would have left him to fend for himself, but right now, she can't. Her morals, her heart would fight against her, if she would be responsible for the kid's life. Run, she shouted to the kid and dragged him away, not giving the boy even the chance to think, "'Cause that could possibly kill him. We need to run or they'll kill us." The kid let out a voice of confusion, clearly unsure of what was happening. "Don't run off again," the pirates yelled at them, making Nami urge to run faster. "Are we playing tag?" the boy cluelessly asked, making Nami really want to bonk his head, but she didn't want the boy to panic. She didn't want him to die. And if he did, then she knew she would blame herself. "Yes," she replied quickly, with a laughing kid at her side. But before they could run more, the boy was yanked free from her hands. She gasped in horror and turned as fast as she could. "We told you to not run," one of the three pirates while trying to punch the boy. Nami watched with her breath in her throat as the punch neared the boy's nose. That would surely break it. Nami was running to the boy before even thinking, but she didn't need it as the boy ducked off at the right time, but his hat was knocked out of his head. The string which Sabo had tied to it was the only one that kept it from falling off. Anger overtook Luffy as he straightened again, placing the hat back onto his head as he glared at the man who'd hit it. "Don't you dare mess up my hat," he shouted, reeling his fists back and punching the man, sending him flying. "Damn you!" The remaining pirates yelled, lifting their swords to attack him. He saw from the corner of his eyes. He was playing tag, held her palm on his mouth and watched in horror. Her other hand went down to prepare her staff, even if she was afraid. Without wasting any time, Luffy knocked out the remaining two pirates, knocking them out and sending them crumbling to the ground. "Wow," the girl said him with awe in her eyes, "you're really strong." Luffy smiled at her and his stomach chose this time to grumble. "I'm hungry." "Who are you?" he asked the last part loudly to the girl who was now leading him to somewhere. He just chose to follow her. Zoro would find him or he would find him later. "I'm Nami, the girl now," Nami said with a smile on her face. "And we weren't playing tag. Those pirates were chasing me." "Oh, I wanted to play." Luffy pouted. He wanted to play tag, but he didn't like them since they hurt his hat. "But why were they chasing you?" "Those guys were pirates. Their captain is Buggy the Clown. I just stole a map from them, and they want it back," Nami said as they walked down the alley to a house she had opened the lock of. "What kind of person is this Nami person?" the kid said in pure confusion, but she couldn't help herself from yelling at the boy aloud. "I'm Nami. The pirate is Buggy," she yelled and took a deep breath. She didn't want to harm a kid yet, and won't be doing anytime soon, but if the idiot continued sprouting nonsense, she wasn't sure how she could control herself. "Buggy is a famous pirate who likes cannons. I assume you aren't from this town?" That got a nod from the kid. "The villagers of this town are in hiding. Buggy took over here." "Okay," Luffy answered. The name Buggy was striking a chord in his memory, but where have he heard it? Sabo hadn't told him about any pirate like that in East Blue. But he had heard it. Maybe from one of the stories of his mother. "So what's that hat?" Nami asked, pointing to his straw hat. "When you said they nearly damaged it you got so mad. Is it expensive?" Luffy held his hat from one hand and said, "This is my treasure." "Treasure?" Nami said, her eyes changing into berries when her eyes caught the shiny pearly bracelet with an ASL written in a seashell bracelet with a straw hat symbol on it. Her eyes flicked back to the hat. "Are there jewels in your hat too like those?" Luffy pouted at that and forced his left wrist in his pocket. Stupid Ace and Sabo giving expensive gifts. He thought, but he liked the thought behind the gift. Ace and Sabo had given him to not feel too far from his mom and not feel too lonely. His stomach growled as he held it, ignoring Nami's question. "I'm hungry." "Why don't I treat you to some food?" she asked with a smile, and even though Luffy felt her eyeing his treasures, he could tell she was genuine on the food part. "Really?" Luffy asked with a beaming smile, making Nami chuckle. She briefly wondered if this would be what Nijiko would feel if they had a normal childhood. "Yeah," she replied, walking ahead of the path in her thoughts. "Yosh," he cheered, running to her. They walked down the street, and eventually stopped in front of a house. Nami got first, followed by Luffy, who made a beeline for the table and sat on the chair. Nami rummaged through the fridge and began digging around in it. Soon enough, a steak of meat was placed in front of him and he ate it in one bite, Nami watching with wider eyes as she sat on the edge on the table. "Where are your parents?" Nami asked. She couldn't allow the boy to roam freely in a town where there are pirates. "Home," Luffy said, holding the glass of water which was given to him by Nami. "Why are you here then?" Nami asked the boy. Did the boy's parents leave him alone to fend for himself? "I got separated from my crew," Luffy said, folding his legs on the chair. Well, that was shocking. The boy was traveling with a crew and his parents have let him. That was not a good sign. "How many people are in your crew?" Nami asked curiously. "Only one," Luffy said, licking the plate for the sauces. "Is this your house?" "No, I don't even know whose house is this," she told him, ignoring the fact that the boy was traveling with only one person. Well, it was not her business to mend into, right? "So you are stealing from the empty houses," Luffy said with his smile. "That's despicable," Nami yelled, banging her hands on the table. "I'm a thief who just steals from pirates." Nami rubbed her forehead, feeling the headache coming in. She hates pirates. She won't ever do things like them. "Don't even compare me with those robbers." She saw the easy, carefree smile on the kid's face and sighed, wanting to explain herself. "My goal is to get 100 million belly. And I'm going to buy a certain village." "Buy a village?" Luffy repeated. His mother had told him about Arlong pirates yesterday, about how they were disturbing a village in the East Blue. What was its name? Koko. Kokomati. Koko, is it Kokoyashi village? Nami's mood darkened and she was about to yell her frustration on him, but the boy changed the topic and luckily, he got away from her wrath. "How will you get that much?" Luffy seriously wondered. "I've got a plan for that," Nami said, turning away from Luffy and bringing out a paper, which was a map. "This is the Grand Line map I just stole. I'm going to steal some treasure from Buggy and then off to Grand Line." "Are you a navigator?" Luffy asked with awe in his eyes and a smile on his lips. Nami nodded with a wide smile. She mentally thought if the boy's smile was infectious. "You wouldn't find a better navigator than me," she said proudly. When she looked at the boy again, he was out of his seat and looking at her eyes directly. Her breath hitched and she felt her entire life being read by those soul-piercing eyes. She felt herself like an open book in front of those eyes. She was snapped out of her musings when the brown doe eyes changed to golden red. She blinked and they were gone. It could be a mirage, she thought. But all the condition for the mirage were absent. "Woohoo!" The boy cheered, breaking Nami out of her inner debates. "That's perfect. Do you want to be our navigator?" he asked, smiling widely. "Really?" Nami returned a wide smile of her own. If the kid's strength was something, then maybe she could use his and his other crewmates' help to gather more money. "Yeah, join our pirate crew," Luffy said with his signature smile. Nami's mood turned from happiness to anger within seconds and she shouted, "No way." She could see the confusion echoing through the boy's face. "So, you're a pirate?" she asked, standing straight again. "Yeah," he said and brought his hat in his hands. "I swore to a person who gave me this straw hat that I gather a crew and become a pirate. It's my treasure," he said, smiling as he placed the hat back on his head. Nami looked at the boy for a moment, and then stepped down from the table. She slammed her hands on the table, causing the plate on it to clatter. "There is nothing I hate more in this world than pirates," she said fiercely to Luffy, forgetting that she was showing her anger to someone much younger than her. "I only like money and tangerines." Nami frowned in her mind. The one person she tagged as innocent and naive was a pirate, but a stupid pirate, with bellies. "Come on, become our navigator," the kid said again, with a grin. "I said no already," she yelled, when an idea struck her mind. She went in for her nonchalant mood as she looked at him. "Well, it looks like you are in a fix, so just under one condition I'll consider it." "Really?" Luffy asked with a beaming smile on his face. "Finally, he will be getting another crewmate, so what are the terms?" "Go with me to where Buggy is, that's all I want you to do," Nami asked, lifting her finger. She felt guilty for using the kid, but heck if she cares, the boy is a pirate. He should have thought before when he had decided to be one. For a moment she felt that the kid would back off, but the boy walked straight to the door, with a bright grin lit on his face. "Okay, let's go," he said to her, making her turn back to him. "Where's Buggy?" "Hang on a second." She turned to the boy, stopping him in his tracks. She picked up the ropes which she had found a while ago. "What's that rope for?" the boy asked, with his hands in his pocket. "It's just a rope," she said, giving him a smile. "You got a problem?" Luffy felt that the girl was lying and was feeling a bit guilty. But well, he can overpower the girl anytime he wants. They walked, and a few minutes later Nami said that they were nearing the bar where the Buggy pirates were staying. That was when he felt himself being attacked by the girl. His haki had already warned, making him sidestep her, which made her stumble on her track. "What are you doing?" He frowned at her. "You will find out soon," she said, lunging on him again. He pouted and got away from her tracks again, making the girl shout at him to stay still. "But why?" he asked with a pout. He certainly didn't like to be tied. "It's just a rope. Are you afraid of it?" she asked him, making him frown. Fine, he said, standing still. The girl tied him up and he tested if he could get rid of it and found that he could break out of it easily if he wanted to. Let's go, she said and walked forward. He just followed her. The two made their way through the town. Once they reached there, he saw a man with blue-haired man with a really big red nose. Luffy looked over at Nami, whose nervousness was leaking to him, but mostly confidence as they paraded through the many pirates on either side of them. That's them. One of the pirates Luffy had beaten up earlier exclaimed, pointing to them. She is the one who stole the map. Nami grinned and pushed him forward, even if she hesitated a bit. Unable to catch his footing, Luffy fell and landed on the ground. I captured the thief and brought him back, Captain Buggy the Clown, Nami said, making Luffy look at her. I'll return your map too, she said as she walked up to the man, holding the map in her hand. I appreciate it. But why the change of heart? The red nose asked from where he sat in his chair. Nami handed the map over before backing away back towards Luffy. My boss, Nami pointed to the tied kid, don't go on his size, she said before continuing. We had a fight. I'm fed up with him. Please let me join your crew, she said with a smile. Fed up, huh? Buggy laughed. You're a pretty amusing girl. Okay, I'll let you join as part of my crew. Immediately, Luffy was picked up by two nearby pirates and thrown into a cage. Luffy frowned at the new place, but well, he could break out of it easily, so no issue. He will let Nami play out whatever plan she had in her mind. After all, she will be their navigator. The stolen map of the Grand Line has been recovered, Buggy yelled. Furthermore, we have recruited a new crew member. Everything is going our way, the Blue Nose yelled. Now drink to your heart's content. Yahoo! The pirates cheered, raising their cups and drinking it. All the while, Nami was doing competition with the other pirates on drinking, showing her endless drinking capacity. Luffy was feeling hungry at the sight of all the unreachable food, when Nami crouched before him to stuff his face. He grinned as the spicy flavor of tender meat hit his tongue, making him feel good. You are a nice person, Luffy said with a grin. Nami returned his grin and said, don't worry, once my plans work smoothly, I can help you run away since I have nothing against you. Then open it now, Luffy said with a little pout. He wanted more food and was feeling hungry. Bawahahaha. The red nose came over with a drink in his hand, which he recognized as the one Ace, Sabo and his dad would drink sometime and won't let him. Well, he really doesn't like it, so it doesn't matter. You have got yourself a pretty good follower there, thief boss. Buggy laughed maliciously. Seriously, how is the red nose a Roger pirate? What are you talking about? She is not my follower, he said looking at Buggy. Yes, I know what you mean. She betrayed you. After all, he drank a swig from the jar. Even though I got my map back, it's still a terrible crime to steal from this man here. Your fate has been chosen for you. Momentarily, Luffy felt that the man would let him go. You gonna let me go? Yeah, I am letting you go, Buggy said, not realizing what he said, making Luffy break his ropes easily. Thanks, man, he said, flexing his limbs and grinning at the big nose. You're not that bad. See, Nami, a member of Roger Pirates can't be that bad, he said, freezing everyone, which was luckily only Buggy and Nami in the vicinity. Buggy stared with wide eyes and looked at the kid. How do you know? He asked, giving him a glare, making the boy pout. If the word came out, his back will be painted with a big target and you won't be able to stay in East Blue anymore. Buggy's eyes wandered to the straw hat and he felt a stone drop in his stomach and anger overtake him. Seeing your straw hat reminds me of a guy the first knew long time ago. Buggy gritted his teeth at the worst memory. The impudent red-haired guy. Red-haired? Luffy asked, sitting comfortably in the cage. Right? You obviously know Shanks. Did he tell you about me? Buggy said, narrowing his eyes at the boy who was rocking back and forth in his cage. A look on the orange-haired girl showed her still frozen. Nope. And the hat? He asked, his knife twirling in his hands, ready to strike. Ah, the brat brought out the hat for him to see. Yep, it's of Shanks. Is that so? Buggy said with an angry voice, yet the brat didn't look at all fazed by it and kept grinning like an idiot. An idiot's hat is deserved by another idiot. He gritted his teeth. I thought it looked familiar. Me and that guy used to be in the same pirate ship. We were comrades. Yep, I know. Now can I leave? The brat asked with a smile. You think I am that stupid? He asked, getting furious. He turned away from him to look at his crew. Boys, prepare the Buggy special cannonball. The Buggy special cannonball is ready, Captain, another pirate answered. Alright, show them, Buggy said with a menacing grin on his face. Show them its power. The cannon was pointed to the houses, making Nami's eyes widen. Lines and lines of houses got obliterated at once. The power is so great, this thing can wipe out the whole little village in one shot, Buggy said with his menacing voice. This and the powers I have gained from the Devil's Fruit assure my future success at the Grand Line. Buggy should be thankful that he was not heard by Luffy, otherwise he would be laying flat with his face on the ground. Now, shoot the cannon, Nami, Buggy said, pointing the cannon's mouth to Luffy, who was looking at the destruction. And swear upon this, your loyalty and sincerity of the desire to rule the world with me. Get rid of your old boss once and for all. Buggy lied. Once he would be done with the brat, he would erase Nami. No one should destroy his vacation. He saw Nami shaking as she looked with wide eyes to him. Luffy saw Nami sweating at the mere thought of killing him. "'Kay, kill that guy." "Me? No, see Captain Buggy, I'm just fine. First let's." "Yeah, sake. Let's drink some more sake. Just forget about him." Nami knew that her distraction was not working, and it was confirmed when Buggy ordered once more to kill the kid, whose name even she doesn't know yet. Nami didn't want to face a Roger pirate. Never. Never has she thought the guy would be one. If she would have known, she wouldn't have come alone. Cheers followed through the crowd of pirates telling her to shoot. She was afraid. She couldn't shoot the boy, even if he was a filthy pirate. If she killed the boy, then there will be no difference between pirates and her. She saw the boy's hat shadowing his eyes as he looked at her. "Nami, stop spoiling the fun. Just hurry up and light it," Buggy yelled, making her come out of her musings. "Your hand is shaking," she heard the straw-hatted boy say. "That's what you get for only being half prepared to mess with pirates." "Prepared? Prepared to take a human life so easily?" she asked, with beads of sweats rolling from his forehead. "Is that what it takes to be a pirate?" "No, it's not," she heard the boy say. "Don't wait around." The voices of the other pirates hit her, making her flinch. "You gotta be prepared to risk your own life," she heard the kid say. "Shoot, shoot. Oi, new kid, stop wasting our time. Don't you know how to light a fuse?" A pirate took over lighting a matchstick and about to light the rope. Her hands went over to the boo staff strapped to her thighs. She hit the pirate on his face, making him fall on the ground. What the? She could hear the confusion coming from the pirates, and she herself didn't know what compelled her to do as she did. "Nami, you idiot. What the hell do you think you're doing? I actually gave you the honor of lighting the cannon's fuse because you're my new member." Buggy's yells caught her off guard as she backed to the cage where the guy was still sitting. "But now I think you should be the first one to be killed. I had kept you for the last." "I knew it. You're a good person," the guy said with a full grin on his face, which shouldn't be there at least right now. "Don't be stupid," she shouted. "I only did that without thinking. I did it because I don't even want to pretend to be one of these disgusting, hideous pirates. Pirates stole the life of someone who was precious to me. I hate pirates more than anything." Luffy felt the genuine hatred towards pirates in Nami and understood why she hated the pirates, but his attention caught the burning fuse. "The fuse is burning," he shouted, making Nami turn once to him, but she herself was in a situation. "You tired to make a fool of me, you little bitch," Buggy yelled, furiously. "Kill her, painfully. Die." The pirates lunged onto Nami, who was feeling overwhelmed. She hit the pirates with her boo staff and ran to the cannon. "Behind you," Luffy warned, sitting calmly with his freed hands holding the cage. If there will be any need of his, he will interfere. And right now, he didn't feel the need, as Zoro came and blocked the pirates aiming for Nami. "Zoro!" Luffy grinned at the swordsman. "Zoro?" one of the fallen pirates screamed. "You?" Zoro turned towards Luffy. "Is it all fun to you? You kept drowning, got caught by a bird, and now when I finally find you, you are in a cage?" "Stupid," he finished his rambling, making Luffy pout childishly. "Hey, that guy. Zoro? Did he just say his name is Zoro?" another pirate asked among each other. "You definitely are Zoro, the pirate hunter. Are you aiming for my head?" Buggy asked coming from behind. "Nope, not interested. I stopped hunting pirates." Zoro responded patiently. What was up with these people calling him Pirate Hunter? "But I have some interest. If I kill you, my name will become more famous." This time Zoro looked over his shoulder at the man, glaring. "If you don't want to die, just leave me alone," he said as a matter of fact. "Ooh, kill him, Captain. Send Zoro off," the pirates cheered. "If you don't show your true skills now, you will soon be dead," Buggy said as he began flipping a knife in one hand and held 4 others between the fingers of his other hand. Zoro sighed. "Fine, if that's what you want," Zoro said, placing a sword in his mouth while Buggy removed the big orange cape he'd had draped over a matter of seconds. Buggy began charging at Zoro, but the swordsman didn't move and took another stance. Die flashily. Buggy didn't even hit Zoro as the swordman sliced the pirate's limbs off, the pirates cheering as he did and Nami looking away. "He died easily," he said, sheathing his katanas. "Zoro!" Zoro heard Luffy shout his name, making him turn towards him. "The guy has chop chop fruit. He is not dead." "What do you mean? He looks pretty down to me," he said, but as he did the surrounding pirates began laughing ominously at them. Zoro eyed them swiftly and unsheathed one of his swords again, his eyes glancing back to the fallen captain. Zoro was about to ask what was so funny, when he saw Buggy began to move out of the corner of his eye, the man reassembling as if he hadn't been cut in the first place. One of the hands didn't reassemble though and instead shot right at him. Thanks to Luffy's warnings and his own reflexes, he blocked the attack with his unsheathed sword. "His arm," Nami said in shock, hands to her mouth and pale as she watched the disembodied arm fly back to Buggy and replace itself. As the kid over there said, "I'm a splitting person who can't be cut," Buggy exclaimed, the pirates cheering again at his words while Buggy laughed. He stuck his body back together. "I thought the devil fruits was just a myth," Nami said in shock. "Attacking from behind is unfair." "Big nose," Luffy shouted to Buggy, annoyed that the man had attempted to stab Zoro in the back. The pirates blanched around him at his words and froze in shock and fear. "Who's got a big nose?" Buggy shouted in fury, detaching his arm from his body to hit him. "Luffy," Zoro shouted as he tried to intercept the attack, but not making it in time. It didn't matter though as Luffy caught the knife with his fingers and broke it into two. "Buggy, I will take you down," Luffy said, his glare turning into grin. Buggy began laughing again at that, confidence filling him. "Take me down? You're hilarious. You three are gonna die right now on the spot," Buggy yelled, making the pirates laugh at them. "Everything is finished," Nami said with all hope dying within her. "We are dead." "I'm not gonna die," Luffy exclaimed before laughing, Buggy watching in surprise. "Zoro, run," Luffy shouted to Zoro, who looked at him in shock before understanding dawned him. "Hey, your friend came to rescue you, but you are telling him to run away?" Nami asked in confusion. "Okay," Zoro said. Nami was in shock and Buggy flew in rage. "Stupid idiot. You think I'm going to let you go? Roranoa Zoro?" Buggy screamed in rage as his arms separated from his body. "Chop chop cannon." Zoro hit the knives easily and ran forward straight to the cannon. Getting near him, Zoro pushed it up, flipping it around to face Buggy and his gang. Nami ran up to Zoro, finally understanding what was happening and led the cannon. "Oh crap. The cannons pointed this way," the pirates shrieked running hayway. "Wait, wait, wait," Buggy shouted. "There's still a special Buggy ball in there, Nami. I thought you were on our side." The cannon fired, spreading smoke everywhere and giving Zoro, Luffy and Nami a perfect chance to escape the situation. Luffy laid down in the cage, staring blankly ahead of him. "How do you know he wasn't done yet? How did you know his devil fruit?" Zoro asked as he dragged the cage. "I just knew it," Luffy said while shrugging. "Never mind," Zoro said in a resigning mood and thought about the girl who was following them. Who was that girl anyways? "Our navigator," Luffy said with a smile. "That's some good news. Now we can go for islands without getting actually lost," Zoro said, dropping the cage in the ground near a dog. "What's up with this dog?" he asked, making Luffy sit up and look at the dog with a beaming smile. "Dog," he exclaimed happily, like a kid getting his favorite candy. He moved the cage by himself to the dog, rocking it back and forth. He poked at the dog curiously, making the dog bite him. "Stupid dog. Leave my hand. Woof, woof," and the two started fighting. "You idiot, do you even know the seriousness of the situation here?" Zoro yelled at Luffy, who stopped fighting with the dog and laid down again. "Stupid dog," he huffed, making Zoro chuckle. "You two, what on earth are you guys doing?" Nami said, approaching the reckless idiots lying on the open, inviting Buggy's men to come over to attack them. "If you just lie around here in the middle of the street, Buggy will definitely find you." "Hey, Nami," Luffy grinned at her. "I just came to repay my debt to you, because you saved my life back there," Nami said, tossing the key to the ground. "The key?" Luffy said with his signature grin. "You stole the cage key?" "Yeah, even if I think so myself, it was really a dumb thing to do. Because of that I couldn't steal any of the treasures," Nami said with a sigh. Zoro smiled and Luffy went to grab the key, but right as he was about to pick it up, the dog ate it. Nami's sweat dropped, Zoro frowned and Luffy became furious. "Stupid dog. You ate the key," Luffy said angrily, shaking the dog, before leaving it. "Fine," he grumbled as he flexed his fingers. "Fine?" Zoro and Nami asked, looking at him. "I'll just break the cage," Luffy said with a shrug as if it were obvious. He placed his hands on the two adjacent bars and stretched them wide, giving him enough space to crawl out of it. "What the hell?" Nami shrieked in surprise, not having expected it at all. Now that she thinks, the kid had broke out of her ropes too. "You could do this the whole time, you jerk?" Zoro asked, having half the mind to beat his captain right there. He had carried the cage around the whole town for his idiot captain to break out of it easily. She. Yup. Luffy gave his signature D grin as he stood tall, but he was even shorter than Nami. He pouted. "Hey, you people," a new voice shouted, saving Luffy from the ominous doom which had hung on his head. "Who are you, mister?" Zoro asked. "I'm the town's mayor, Boodle," the mayor asked as he walked up to them. He looked at the cage, and took in the sight of the kids standing before them. One of them was trying to play with Shushu, but the little dog wasn't even moving. "Why is the dog just sitting here?" Zoro asked, eyeing at the dog on whom the mayor's eyes were. "It's guarding the shop," the mayor stated, and started telling them the story of Shushu's previous owner and how he'd owned the pet food shop behind them. He told them of his theory on why Shushu still stayed, how the shop had been his previous master's treasure, and by the end of it he was sitting beside Zoro, smoking his pipe while Luffy watched Shushu with a small smile. When the mayor was about to say more, a roar shook the town, making them all turn towards the sound. What is it, that roaring noise? Nami shrieked in fear. That is that guy. The beast trainer Moji, he shouted, freaking out behind Nami. What do you mean by it? Nami asked, turning to the mayor, but the mayor was already running away from the place. Wait. Hold on, she shouted at him, but the man was already behind one of the houses, running into the alleys. Nami turned to the two monsters in front of her and contemplated her options. Pirate Hunter, Zoro has to be stronger to protect them as he had done. If she goes with the mayor, she wasn't sure that she would be safe from the other pirates. Another rumble shook the ground, making her legs tremble. She shuffled closer to Zoro and Luffy, who were both looking towards the source of the sound. Someone is coming, Zoro said, unsheathing one of his sword. Nami hid behind him while Luffy gave a huge grin as a large lion came out from the corner, a man riding on top of it. Can I eat him? Luffy asked, already drooling, pointing at the lion, who luckily didn't notice Luffy. You idiot! Nami shrieked at Luffy, who was acting like a dummy. Don't agitate him. The lion rider ignored the scrawny teen and looked at the brats in front of him. I am Beast Tamer Moji. A member of the Buggo, bring you back to Captain Buggy, he said, remembering he hadn't asked the brat's name. What's your name? I'm Monkey D. Luffy. The teen responded, looking at his Richie, all the way drooling. I'm here to bring you to my captain, Monkey D. Luffy, along with your friends Pirate Hunter Zoro and the thief Nami. The man boasted, siding tall on his lion. What's the weird hood you are wearing? Luffy asked, removing his eyes from the lion to the weird man. You idiot! Watch what you are saying. This is my hair, Moji shouted angrily, pointing to his hair. Nami hid behind Zoro safely and Zoro held onto the hilts of his swords, ready to pull them anytime. That's even weirder, Luffy said, his swordsman nodding in agreement. Nami was reconsidering on her choices. They will get killed if the boys kept on agitating the pirate, and it would be them who would be the food of the lion, not opposite. Shut up, he shouted. You don't know how scary I am. I'm telling you, there is no animal in this world that won't obey me. That's so cool, Luffy said with his eyes shining, wanting to see it. Zoro and Nami turned to see the boy, not believing that should be said right now. Moji, getting a proud smirk on his face, pointed to the dog. That includes that dog over there, Moji told them as he got off his lion, walking up to a still Shushu and crouching in front of him. Shake, he told the dog, holding his hand out expectantly. Everyone watched, expecting the dog to do as such, but it instead bit Moji's hand, the man freaking out and shaking it in an attempt to get Shushu off. I wanted to see that, Luffy said with a pout. He was lying. Don't say that, idiot, his two new crew members shouted at him. Once Shushu let go, Moji recomposed himself, standing tall again, ignoring the comments of the brats. You are just a nameless thief, he said to Luffy. Then his attention turned to Zoro, who was standing proud and hiding the orange-haired thief who betrayed them. Come with me, otherwise I will have to kill you three here. Nope, not coming right now, Luffy said, picking his nose and flicking the booger to the lion and his rider. Nami, do you have any more food? He asked nonchalantly, ignoring the enemies. And booze, Zoro added. We are going to die, Nami said with wide eyes, seeing the rider, Moji, getting pissed off. Kill them, Richie, Moji shouted, pointing to the three. Angry that he was ignored. Angry that the brat had the audacity to flick his booger to him. Nami shrieked in fear and dropped to the ground, covering her head with her hands and squeezing her eyes shut. Zoro unsheathed his swords, ready to fight the giant lion. But what the beast tamer was not expecting that Luffy was unpredictable. The lion whimpered with his one look over the kid, which his master had ordered him to kill. He wanted to listen to his master, but his instinct told the boy was odd and not someone he would want to mess with. He wanted to turn tail and run, when his master ordered again. Kill them, Richie, his master said. Not wanting to disobey his master, he did as he was said with closed eyes as fear painted on his face. The paw came directly over to Luffy first, who got angered. Don't waste my time, he said, holding it easily. The lion whimpered and wanted to run away from the incoming danger. Zoro smirked, but still ready to fight if required. Nami was completely shocked. Or I would rather eat you, Luffy said, throwing the lion and breaking the momentarily silence which had fallen. Everyone watched as the lion got knocked off his balance and fell on his butt a bit far. Nami, can I have some more steak? Luffy ignored the lion in favor of food. He was hungry. Aye. Nami couldn't respond as the beast tamer growled in anger. Richie, I said get them. We can raid the pet shop after it, Moji insisted, encouraging the lion who was still sitting on his butt. With a roar, the lion dashed forward again, and Luffy turned towards it. He was pissed off it. Even Shushu was looking angry and growling. What the? Moji shouted, looking at the stretching hands. Nami was not even better. She was really thinking if she made a right choice staying here. The boy in front of her is a monster, and yet she willingly chose to stay with them. Don't worry, Shushu, Luffy said, stretching his arms forward and twisting them together. I won't let your treasure to be destroyed. He grabbed the lion's head and jumped over his head, not wanting to destroy the little dog's treasure. Gomu Gomu no Tsuchi, he shouted, letting his arms unravel. The lion began to rotate, before Luffy sent it into the air, making it land face first in the ground, knocking it out. What are you? Moji asked in fear. Luffy didn't bother looking at the man from where he was still crouched on the ground. I'm a rubber man, he said to him while Nami stared in awe at the straw-hatted teen's strength, shakily standing up. A devil fruit? Moji yelled. Just like Captain Buggy? Luffy plopped his hat on his head and glared at him, making the man freeze. He took a deep breath as he realized that he can't stop everyone calling the fruits as devil fruits. I am sorry. Please forgive me, I'm sorry, the man shouted, jumping away from Luffy and holding his hands up in surrender. You don't need to anymore, he said, shadowing his eyes. You're going to take that dog's treasure. That's why I'm gonna kick your ass, Luffy said, turning to face Moji and lifting his hat to show his anger-filled eyes. Nami flinched at those eyes, while Zoro put away his swords instantly, seeing that there was no threat now. The man began to run away, but it was of no use. Luffy stretched his arm, grabbing the man's throat. Eek! The man let out a squeak. Luffy pulled him towards him. Once close enough, Luffy used his other fist to punch the man, knocking him out as well and leaving him on the ground. He walked to his friends, and saw Nami coming out from behind Zoro and start to yelling about pirates. Zoro raised an eyebrow at her angry look but didn't make a move. He was waiting for Luffy to say something, but the guy ignored Nami. Pirates are all the same, every last one, regardless of their age. They take what people hold dear without a second thought, she shouted, standing in front of Luffy and not allowing him to take a step further. Nami hated pirates, and seeing one of them trying to take away Shushu's treasure was a salt sprinkled to her own wounds. I'll kill you here and now, before you get the chance to gather crewmates and attack towns like this one, she shouted and was about to throw a punch to Luffy, when the boy just dodged with a little laugh. As if you could beat me, he poked his tongue out, making the orange-haired more angry and charged him with her baton. Luffy turned his back to her, allowing her to try, and kept dodging the attacks simultaneously. He went to Shushu, when Nami raised her hands to punch him again, but he dodged it easily again. He could feel Zoro was staring with wide eyes and wanting to ask questions. Well, he can do that later. He crouched in front of Shushu and patted his head. You did a good job, he said with his signature grin. You kept your treasure safe. That lion is not coming back, he told the dog, who looked at him for a second before barking once. Luffy laughed at the words. Nami had stopped altogether, her anger melting away and leaving her feeling ashamed of her. She had directed others' anger on somebody else. She realized that the teen had fought for the dog rather than himself or Zoro. Unlike every pirate, Luffy had done something out of selflessness. He hadn't kept himself first. Yeah, good luck to you too, Luffy told him before standing back up and turning to Zoro. Zoro, Luffy whined. I am hungry. What are you, a kid or a pirate? Zoro asked, comically falling to his butt at the puppy eyes Luffy used on him. Luffy huffed and pouted his cheeks out like a chipmunk, making Nami feel too ashamed now for her outburst. I'm a pirate, not a kid. Whatever, Zoro grumbled under his breath and stood up, dusting his pants. Nami said, interrupting the conversation. I can treat you to food, she said as a way of apology. She saw Zoro about to speak, when she added, booze too as an apology. Thank you, Luffy said with the biggest smile anyone could possibly have. She could already tell that the boy had not minded her shouting at all, by the way he was acting friendly with her. Thanks, Zoro even grumbled, walking to a complete opposite direction, when Luffy told him they need to go other side. The houses are moving on their own, Zoro shouted, feeling flustered. He got a happy laugh from his captain in return. You're alive? The mayor asked in disbelief as he came out from his hiding place. I guess I am, Luffy answered, making the other sweat drop, and started to sweat himself. Wait, am I alive? Idiot, Zoro yelled, bonking his head. Don't just sprout nonsense. She, Luffy laughed out freely, having enjoyed annoying Zoro and making Nami smile. Mayor, Nami went forward. Can we have a place to eat? I will pay you, she said. She just wanted to repay the men who had saved her twice till now. She won't fall into the debt of pirates. Yeah, and you don't need to pay, the mayor said, pointing to his house. Come in. The least I can do is feed you lads for getting rid of the beast tamer. Thank you. They chorused and dug in as their food was laid in front of them. But unluckily it wasn't enough for Luffy, but he appreciated free food. So, you have returned, Moji, Buggy said, sitting over his throne. I'm very sorry, Captain Buggy, Moji said as he kneeled on his knees. What? That straw hat kid beat you up? Buggy yelled when his man said that he was defeated by the kid. Weren't you supposed to be fighting Zoro? Yes sir, Moji replied with a trembling voice. I underestimated him. His voice and mind was blacking out, but he had to tell his captain that the kid is a rubber man. The truth is, he's Moji said, feeling his body swaying. Ruh. Man. The world blacked out for him. What was that? Moji was trying to tell us something. What was so important that he had to say it before passing out? I only heard him say Rummin. The Buggy pirates began to chatter among themselves. I take it you had a lovely time together then? Buggy growled as he got up. No, Captain Buggy. The pirates cowered. Blow up this town, hurry. Buggy ordered ruthlessly. What do you want from the town? The mayor asked finally after telling them about the town's history and how it was built. If the teens have fought the beast tamer and came out without a scratch, then they were possibly stronger than he had thought them to be. Just want to pick our navigator, Luffy said, having already finished his food and looking at Zoro's, who was defending it. Nami was only drinking as she was not hungry, hence safe from the food fight. Following my captain, Zoro said, stabbing Luffy's wandering hands with his fork, making the boy pout. That was a new information for the mayor and Nami. They had thought that the pirate hunter was the captain and not the other way around. Need to get the Grand Line map, Nami said, taking another sip from her black tea. Oh, Nami saw Luffy plant his fist on his other palm. Her eyes directly went to the bracelets. Before Luffy could say, a large bang sounded and Luffy was out of his seat and shielding them with his own body. Zoro worked efficiently in making the mayor and Nami get out of the house. Luffy inflated his body and bounced the ball to the direction it came, and then a splash could be heard, indicating that the cannon went straight to the water. The explosion knocked out lines of houses, last of them being the mayor's house. Nami collapsed on her feet, seeing that the boy, who she had met right now, had given his life for them. She was staring wide-eyed and saw from her corner of her eyes Zoro gritting his teeth and holding the hilt of his blades tightly, waiting for something. The mayor was looking angry as the time passed. Is the Straw Hat Boy dead? The mayor asked, wanting to go check, but Zoro's other hand held in place. He can't be. Nami heard Zoro say in low voice, and he was saying the truth as the next moment came out of Luffy holding his hat in place, his eyes shadowed. How can he be still alive? Nami asked with disbelieving eyes, looking over the boy, who didn't look like that he has taken the hit at all. Don't scare us, idiot, Zoro yelled at the boy, who looked at the direction of the cannonball. I'm gonna kick his ass, Luffy said angrily, which Nami hadn't thought the boy was capable of. I am pathetic, the mayor said, making Luffy stop and hear him. I am the mayor of this town and it should be me who should stand up against those pirates. They won't be getting away anymore now. These ruffians have no right to just show up out of nowhere and destroy the last 40 years of our lives. The mayor shouted, holding a spear high above his head. I am the town's mayor and no one messes with my town without my permission. Calm down, mayor, Nami said, hoping he would listen. He began running ahead of them, making Nami try to catch him. Time to settle things, the mayor shouted.
Wait, mayor, Nami desperately said, getting a hold on him. I refuse to let them away. Even if it's reckless. The mayor shouted with determination. This is a fight I can't run away from. Isn't it right? That's right, old man. Luffy told him with a grin, making Nami glare at him. They will pay for destroying my food. You got riled over food. Nami couldn't believe it. On one side was the mayor fighting for the town, and here another reckless fool wanted to fight for the food which he had already finished it. You can't fight Buggy. You will die if you do. Nami tried to reason with the mayor and Luffy once more. I'm coming for you, Buggy the clown. The mayor said, running off without hindrances. Nami let him go, seeing the tears in the mayor's face.
The mayor was crying, Nami whispered softly. Really? I didn't see, Luffy said, walking ahead. Things are starting to get exciting, Zoro said, placing a hand on his hip, his other hand resting on his swords. She, yup, Luffy exclaimed, his hands at the back of his head. This is no time to be laughing, Nami shouted, worry on her face gone as the mayor disappeared completely from their sight. It's alright, Luffy said with a determined grin. I like that old man. He gave us food. I won't let him die. In that case, Zoro said, walking towards where the mayor had run off to and Luffy was walking to. You're gonna go too? She asked incredulously, running after them. I can't let them get away with thinking I'm someone who runs from a fight, Zoro told her, tying his bandana to his head. We're going to the Grand Line and you need something from them, Luffy said as he stepped up beside Zoro. Map and treasure, Nami said, looking at him and thinking if Luffy could beat Buggy or not. The boy looked weak and scrawny, but him having already defeated Buggy, some of the crew members, made Nami question if he can or cannot. Join my crew, Nami, he told her as he held a hand out to her. I refuse to become a pirate, Nami stated, a scowl on her face, beating the extended hand of Luffy. Call it an alliance instead, we're both working towards our individual goals. You can't do anything to the village. Fight me, the mayor's voice came as Luffy, Zoro and Nami walked up to Buggy's base and saw the mayor being strangled by Buggy's detached hands, unable to do anything. Fire! Buggy shouted, ordering those at the cannon. Before they could do so, Luffy grabbed Buggy's hands and detached them and squeezed it tightly with his own hands. Straw Hat! Buggy shrieked. feeling his detached hands going limp with each passing second. "I've kept my promise," Luffy said with a feral grin. "I've come to beat you." He crushed the hand, making the pirate scream in pain. "Listen, I don't care whether you fight or not, you guys do as you wish. I'm just here for the map and the treasure," Nami stated, making it clear that she won't be fighting. "Yeah, I know," Luffy replied, releasing Buggy's detached hand. The mayor finally stood up and his cough stopped. "All of you, what did you come back for? You three just stay out of this. This is my war." He stood up and held his weapon high, a fierce look on his face. "I'm the one who must protect this village, don't interfere." Before the man could run off, he was slammed to the ground, knocked out in an instant. Nami yelled in shock, sweating against the rough treatment while Zoro didn't even blink an eye. "What the hell? Why did you attack the mayor?" Nami shouted behind Luffy in anger. She was starting to feel that the kid was like all the pirates all again. "'Cause he would get in the way," he replied simply, dusting his hands. "That was smart. If he would have run around recklessly, he would be dead," Zoro said, backing his captain, but it didn't help Nami at all. "Don't be crazy," Nami shouted, not wanting to listen to the excuse. "There were other ways you could have done it." Luffy knew she was right. He could have knocked out the mayor, but that would mean breaking his promise, so he didn't do. He ignored the rest of Nami's speech and walked forward. He took a deep breath before shouting, "Hey you, huge, red, ugly, big nose," he loudly shouted. The Buggy pirate started crying at the back while Nami was freaking at the words. Even Zoro turned to look at him. "Fire the Buggy special cannonball. Fire." Buggy growled out and barked the orders to his crewmen. "Die flashily," he yelled at Luffy as a pirate ran to the cannon and aimed it to the three standing below them. "Are you trying to get yourself killed?" Nami shrieked and began running away from the cannon. "Hey, Luffy, run," Zoro warned his captain. He could be lucky once, but not twice. The cannonball was coming to Luffy and his captain was not at all moving but grinning. "Do you think just because of a cannonball I'll move a single inch?" Luffy asked with a huge grin on his face. Just as he said, the Buggy cannonball reached him. He caught it easily with his right arm, whose fingers stretched to encompass the whole cannonball. "I wanted to try this," Luffy said, grinning. He had heard from his dad about Gigi throwing cannonballs with his hands and it was the perfect time for him to try it. "Gomo Gomo no. The pirates watched with their jaws wide open. "Don't tell me the Buggy ball." Buggy started speaking, perfectly knowing the throw from his memory. If this brat could do anything like that, then they were doomed. "Throw!" Luffy shouted as he flashed his signature grin before throwing the ball back to them at a faster pace. "Could have said something sooner," Zoro said with his hand on his face, annoyed that he had been worried for nothing. The cannonball landed right where the Buggy pirates were standing. The roof of the bar exploded and created a large dust cloud. "Yay! Their number has decreased." Luffy grinned, the wind from the blast knocking his hat back. "Shall we start?" "What the hell are you?" Nami screeched in frustration from the ground, her teeth sharpening at once. The dusty cloud around the building dissipated and the fallen pirates over the broken building appeared. "I knew something was wrong since the time you fought that lion," Nami shouted, taking her stand. She had seen the whole fight and was not able to ask about it, until she saw it right now with a clear mind. "No human can do that. Explain yourself," she demanded, making Luffy look at her with his innocent doe eyes. But Nami wasn't going to fall for it. "How the hell did you do that?" "Gomu Gomu no throw," Luffy said proudly, puffing out his chest and smiling to her. "I'm not asking for the name," Nami yelled, her teeth sharp again in irritation. "Ha ha ha ha." Their attention was snapped to the pirate who stood up, which was none other than Buggy, who had used his own men as human shields using his detached hands. "You're chatting around making a lot of noise like you're not scared," Buggy said lowly, looking at the ground as his hat shadowed his eyes, making him look scary. "Using his own crew as shield," Nami said in disgust, as beads of sweat rolled from her forehead. "Damn it. I was unconscious," a pirate said, getting on his feet and looking at the mess. He had been unconscious before the whole ordeal. "Moji, so you were still alive," the other survivor who had held the lion for his shield said, turning to his comrade. "Kabaji, you," Moji growled, seeing the abuse of his lion. "Richie. What the heck did you do to Richie?" "Ah, this kitten?" Kabaji dropped the lion on the rubbles. "I used him to not let my clothes get dirty." Moji got up to the coughing lion and checked him before glaring at Kabaji. "You bastard," he growled. A look past the man's shoulder made him spot the Straw Hat Kid. The STRAWHAT kid. Luffy waved him in a small greeting. "Captain Buggy, be careful of that kid. That kid has a devil fruit power. He is a rubber man," he said, fearfully glancing at the kid, who so dearly wanted to pound him to the ground. "Rubber man?" Nami asked Luffy, to which Luffy responded by pulling both of his cheeks in opposite direction. "Devil's fruit," Buggy said to himself rather than anyone. "That explains the stretching of his fingers but does not about the flashy strength." "But Moji, if you knew that already," Buggy said, one of his hands already detaching from his body and grabbing Moji's throat. "Why the heck didn't you tell me that earlier?" He threw Moji in the air towards the trio. "But I did," Moji screamed as he flew, not wanting to run into Luffy. "Ah!" he screamed as the Straw Hat Kid reared his leg back ready to kick him away. His leg hit him square on his face, making him tumble to the orange-haired thief, who dodged him. "The fight has begun," Luffy said with a grin. "I, Kabaji the Acrobat, Chief of Staff of the Buggy Pirate Fleet, will avenge the pain you have caused to our fleet," the pirate shouted, aiming his sword for Luffy, only to be intercepted by Zoro, who blocked the sword with his own. Luffy grinned and had a look of awe as he watched Zoro push the acrobat away. "I'll be your opponent," Zoro said, smiling at the chance of finally getting a fight of his own. "It's an honor, Roronoa Zoro," Kabaji said, twirling his sword and riding on his unicycle, confidently. "As a swordsman I get to slay you. To anyone that calls himself a swordman, I won't allow myself to lose even once to him," Zoro said with a glare, and the fight between two swordsmen started. Kabaji started off by breathing fire in Zoro's face and kicking him once the man was stunned. "Go Zoro!" Luffy cheered, jumping in his place and watching the two fight. "Hey!" Nami said, placing her hand on her hips and getting Luffy's attention, breaking him out of cheering for Zoro. "Behind the destroyed pub there's a warehouse. Their treasure is there and the Grand Line map is probably still with Buggy. You win or lose, it doesn't matter to me." She pointed her finger at him. "But if you manage to get the map, then let's work together," she said, taking off to an alley before wishing him luck. "Okay, thanks," Luffy called back and focused on the fight again, where the opposing swordman was spinning tops on his palms, which turned out to 100 tops. The man was cycling up into the air, making him gape in awe. But his attention snapped at the cheap trick Buggy used to stab Zoro in his back. "Kabaji, I'll hold him, so finish Zoro." The disembodied hand came flying towards Zoro. "Yes, Captain," the acrobat said, holding his sword in downward motion to stab Zoro. Direct's detached hand could even make to Zoro. Luffy stepped on it, making the clown scream in pain. "Luffy," Zoro said, realizing what his captain had done for him. "Don't interfere with Zoro's fight," Luffy said with a murderous smile which he had learned from Ace. "Why, you asshole!" Buggy shouted as Luffy continued to grind the detached hand into the ground with his leg. The two continued to stare at each other while Zoro and Kabaji started their fight again. Zoro was getting pissed off with the no-name swordman and decided to finish off the fight soon. "You are pissing me off," Zoro glared at the swordman, crossing his swords in the practiced motion as he readied for the final attack. "Onigiri!" Zoro's blade carved the other swordman's chest, spilling his blood over the ground. The swordsman fell to the ground from his unicycle with Zoro coming out without a single scratch. "Kabaji!" Buggy shouted in surprise, not having expected his swordsman to lose. "Nice Zoro," Luffy said, leaving Buggy's hand to look at Zoro with a grin. "Thanks, Captain," Zoro replied back, sheathing his swords as he turned to look at Luffy and Buggy. "Damn it! The world's best pirate at the likes of a thief," Buggy said through his gritted teeth with irritation. "Not a thief, but a pirate," Zoro said, keeping his hand on his sword to fight if his captain orders. "I'll now finish this off," Luffy told him, holding his bicep in his hand, grinning widely at Buggy, who was just realizing that he was the only one standing conscious. "You mean you guys are pirates?" Buggy asked, his glare on his face back. "Yeah," Luffy confirmed. "Hand over the Grand Line map, otherwise Nami won't join me." "That place isn't exactly somewhere nameless pirates like yourself can go as they please," Buggy stated, making Luffy frown. He had grown up in the New World. Buggy had no right to say that. "What are you planning to do there? Go have a sightseeing tour?" "I'm gonna become the king of pirates," Luffy shouted with his hands in the air, making the pirate comically tilt his head to the other side at his confidence, before getting riled up again. "Don't kid around, you idiotic fool. You becoming the pirate king? Then I'm a god," Buggy yelled in retortion. "The person who'll get his hands on all the treasure in the world will be me. Don't even dream about it." "You are annoying," Luffy said, cleaning his ear. "Let's start with it already." "Don't dare you say that," he screamed, his teeth growing sharp edges. "You've annoyed me so far too much. I doubt rubber can bounce back from blades," he said, kicking his shoe and revealing a knife that stuck out of the front. "Nope, I can't," Luffy confirmed without a thought. "Idiot, don't tell him that," Zoro shouted from where he was leaned against the wall, watching the fight. Luffy blinked, absently, not realizing why he shouldn't. "Bara Bara windmill," Buggy shouted before jumping in the air, legs detaching and spinning like a wheel as they came right towards Luffy, with knives sticking out from the shoes. As the leg neared him, Luffy jumped over them unharmed. Moving here and there in the air is most likely impossible. Buggy asked from where he stood, floating without his legs, holding his knives and throwing them to Luffy, who was still in air. "Why not?" Luffy said with a grin as he stretched his limb to catch the pole and moving away from the path of the knives. He was having fun with this fight, especially when there was no emergency to leave. "Oh ho," Buggy praised. "How interesting, you're an interesting person too," Luffy said back with smile, readying for another attack. Gomu Gomu pistol, he shouted, attempting to hit Buggy in his face, but the man moved out of the way. It's an interesting ability, but it's also a weakness, Buggy said, raising his knife as he watched Luffy's arm continue to extend past his face. I'll tear you into shreds, he shouted, about to slice the arm before seeing the boy coming towards him in full speed. Gomu Gomu. Huh? Buggy finally paid his attention to the human projectile coming towards him. Bara Bara emergency escape. Scythe, Luffy said as he attempted to hit Buggy, but Buggy's head detached from his neck, making his body shoot past the pirate and land behind him and crash in a house. Kuhahahahaha. Buggy laughed maniacally. You're not much of a threat. Gomu Gomu. Buggy taunted as Luffy came out from the rubble, plopping his hat back on his head. Damn, Luffy said standing up. It's getting interesting. Luffy smiled with his infamous D-grin. He had rarely fought to fruit users, because Ace and Sabo hadn't let him to do much cause of how protective they're for him. But this is his fight right now and he will be fighting it and will win. Bara Bara cannon, Buggy called, shooting his left hand off his arm to him with knives on it. Right before it could scratch his face, Luffy caught it with his hand. Separate, his haki warned him the instant Buggy separated his detached hand further. But he couldn't move enough, before the knives cut his face. Luffy instantly used his bangs to cover the blood trail which followed the cut, remembering his promise to his dad. Lu, I want you to listen to this carefully, Dragon said in a clear voice, which meant no nonsense. Luffy straightened up and paid all his attention to his dad, at least as much as he could. You can't show your wounds to anyone, except Eva and her mom, his dad said, confusing him further. Why wasn't he allowed to show his wounds to others, especially when until the age of 10 he was allowed to have a checkup from Mr. T, the revolutionary doctor? Why, Papa? He questioned the query he was facing. Your blood is not red like everyone's, Dragon said with a sigh. He knows he should not talk to his son like this. But this was the only way to have him safe from the world government. It has a goldish trail to it and the world government may recognize it. Luffy oohed, so, it's like not using my real name until I'm stronger, right? Right, Dragon ruffled his son's hair, making him giggle. It didn't hurt much as the damage to his straw hat did. The string to it was cut off as well as the red ribbon of the straw hat. The Vivre cards of Aces, Sabos and Dads falling in the rubble with the red ribbon. You bastard, Luffy shouted, the words chilling whoever heard it, with his murderous glare set at Buggy. In the background, a loud thunder struck somewhere. Buggy flinched and faltered, feeling the haki rolling out from the kid, and ignoring the agonizing sound of thunder. He knew what it was, but he couldn't believe that a no-name wannabe pirate has it. What? So, you're so pissed that your face is scarred, Buggy taunted, acting confident. Luffy picked up the 3 white sheets and stuffed those in his pocket. His eyes shadowed by his hair as he got up and glared at the big nose. How dare you? How dare you mess up this hat? Luffy shouted as he looked at the straw hat without the ribbon in his hands. What? Buggy asked, not getting the trouble he was in now. This is my treasure, Luffy screamed, making the man step back from the ferocity of it. I will not forgive anyone who messes up this hat. Is that hat that precious to you? Buggy said in attempt to distract Luffy as his disembodied hand rose from where it had landed. Yeah, you asshole, Luffy replied, not backing off with the glare. His haki warned him the moment the knife rose in order to stab his hat. Luffy growled in rage as Buggy said, if it's that precious to you, then why don't you protect it properly? Luffy placed the hat to his chest, not allowing the knives to carve it, as he ran from the knives. But he miscalculated it. The 3 knives aimed straight for his chest, making Luffy dodge it, but in that attempt it carved his chest. But his hat was safe and that's all what mattered for him that moment. What? Buggy asked in shock, as blood oozed from the boy's chest painting his red vest. But what shocked Buggy was that idiot was smiling that his hat was safe from further damage. The Purg unconsciousness and were watching him looked at him with shock. Zoro's eyes widened from where he was sitting, clearly seeing the light golden streaks in the red blood which was flowing like water. Zoro was stunned. It's the sunlight making it look like that, Zoro thought to himself, but the flowing blood was concerning. He saw Luffy quickly looking at his chest and wiping the blood with his hands and adjusting his vest to hide the wound. Zoro didn't understand why but was not given any time as Luffy glared at Buggy with a ferocity which should be unknown to people like Luffy. How is that old tattered hat a treasure? Buggy asked in confusion, trying to find something which he would have not seen in the first glance. He knows that it is Shanks's hat and like that reckless bastard used to keep important things in the rim of the hat. There must be something like that in that hat too. His mind supplied that he had noticed some papers falling from it the moment the rim was tore apart. So, you're hiding treasure maps in that? Buggy inquired, not even looking at Luffy who was coming at full speed to him. That's the hat I swore myself to Shanks. That was when Buggy was out of his musings to look at the boy, who was just inches away from him. That's for messing with my hat, Luffy said as Buggy detached his upper body, but the boy's leg hit his balls, making him scream in pain. The male pirates looking over the fight winced at it, but didn't dare come in between the two fighting pirates. Luffy didn't give the clown pirate time to catch his breath. And that's from the old man. Gomu Gomu no bazooka. He sent the pirate, who pissed him off, flying. He took a breath to relax himself and to realize that Buggy has been sent flying. A smile spread in his face, unconcerned of the still flowing blood which was sticking to his vest. Victory! Luffy cheered, his mood changing in the split second, as he ran to Zoro with his hands in the air. The swordsman got up from his place and carried the torn hat and its ribbon with him to Luffy. It was Luffy's first enemy fight without his brothers or anyone in the Revolutionary Army. He was way too happy to not even mind the blood which was still flowing. He better get it fixed though, but that could be done later, he thought. His eyes caught the torn side of his hat in Zoro's hand, making his smile dim. His swordsman handed it to him, making him bite his lips. It was the first time that his hat got even a scratch on it. He wonders what Shanks will say. With a heavy heart, he plopped the hat on his head, covering his eyes to not show the sadness in it. "I can fix that for you," Nami said softly as she approached the pirate. She felt bad after seeing his sad face. A part of her told that the kid didn't deserve to be sad, but she ignored it. "Can you really?" Luffy gave her a hopeful look. She looked away in embarrassment and crossed her arms. "Don't get the wrong idea. I'm still not joining your crew. It's thanks for giving me time to steal the treasures." Luffy grinned wide and sunny, making Nami and Zoro literally squint their eyes at the bright sunshine. "Aren't you hurt?" Zoro asked, eyeing at his chest and torn shirt. The wound was hidden clumsily from the vest and the gold streaks on Luffy's blood were gone, making Zoro take a breath which he was unknowingly holding and confirming that it was sunlight which made him see the blood like that. "Nope, I'm fine," Luffy said, looking at the mayor and wondering if he should wake the man up. But lots of people were coming to their way. They didn't look strong, but determination was flowing within them, making Luffy curious. "You're weird," Nami said, looking at Luffy. The amount of blood which was flowing like water was incredulous and could kill the boy, if he stayed that way. And yet, the boy was running around with that wound and had won the fight with it. "You guys," the newcomers said, making everyone turn towards them, except Luffy, who was already looking at them. "We are the villagers. Did the pirates stir up a fight among themselves? If you know anything, please tell us." "Oh," Nami took a breath of relief. "I thought some of the pirate crew are still here." The Buggy pirates discreetly had left the moment Buggy was sent flying. "Ah, Chief," one of the villager noticed the laying man. "Goodness gracious, please get up, damn it, what the hell happened here?" "It's definitely the work of those pirates," the villagers said, trying to get the chief up. Nami and Zoro both looked away, Zoro whistling innocently while Nami smiled as she sweated. However, a rubber brain boy, Luffy, didn't get the gist of the situation and looked straight at the men. "Sorry, I knocked him out," Luffy said, making both Nami and Zoro stiffen and look at him with eyes filled with horror. "What?" all citizens asked as they turned towards him, anger rising within them. Nami hurriedly picked up the treasure bags and looked at Luffy. "Hey, why did you tell them?" "You didn't need to tell that, idiot," Zoro shouted next. "But I did that," Luffy replied innocently. "But you had an actual reason," Nami started, only to be cut off by the angry villagers. "Why did you guys do this to our mayor?" the man from before asked angrily. "Don't give us your excuses," another shouted. "Who the hell are you? Are you with the pirates?" another shouted. "We are pirates," Luffy said without missing a beat. Nami fell on the ground comically while Zoro face palmed at the sheer stupidness of his captain. But they felt that they couldn't blame him since he was small. But still, he was a pirate and should have at least one brain cell. "So are you," the villagers said, pointing their weapons at them. "Idiot," Nami yelled with sharpened teeth. "But that's the truth," Luffy replied innocently, not even blinking his eyes. "How dare you, pirates," the villagers yelled as they started to run towards them. "What now?" Zoro asked, holding one bag from Nami. Luffy turned to him, his grin wild and free. "Let's run," Luffy said, laughing wildly as he began running. Zoro smiled, liking the idea, and ran after him. Not wanting the innocent and naive kid to get lost, at least. "We won't let you get away. We will pay you back for what you did to the chief." The villagers yelled, chasing them. "Why the hell did you make the situation worse?" Nami yelled at the other boy, who was laughing carefree. "This is a good village," Luffy said with his signature grin, making Nami turn to him abruptly. "What?" Nami asked, not getting Luffy's words. The kid sometimes said words way beyond her comprehension. "They got mad just for the chief, just for one reason," Luffy said with a wide grin. "No matter what excuse we give, they will still be mad at us." Zoro nodded in agreement as Nami finally started understanding, even if it was a bit. They took a sharp turn to the alley, only to meet Shushu, who woofed at them happily once. "Take care, Shushu," Luffy said, looking back and waving to the dog. "Woof," Shushu barked, stopping the villagers in their tracks next. Hey, move, Shushu, those guys are bad pirates." "Woof, woof, grr," Shushu growled, not letting a single villager to go after the pirates. Without having to worry anymore about the crowd, the three slowed their pace, and eventually reached the docks. Luffy noticed the rising waters and bit his lips looking back at the blood which had stopped flowing, but the wound wasn't yet closed. He could hear his mother calling for him continuously. That was scary. We managed to escape thanks to Shushu, Nami said, wiping her sweat from her forehead. Why did we have to deal that way? She asked, tired of running. Who cares? Luffy shrugged, looking at the dock and spotting another boat. Is that your boat? Luffy asked, pointing to the well-looking and comparatively bigger boat docked on the port. It's cool. I don't think so, Nami said, sweat dropping and wondering if she should offer her help. I stole it from some pirates, she mumbled, hands on her hips as she looked at the boat. That's a voice said from the boat, 3 Buggy's pirates poking their heads up. Been waiting for ya, thief girl, another man said. Never thought you'd run into us here, did ya? The other pirate asked. Nami laughed at them nervously. You know them? Luffy asked, Nami cocking his head. Yeah, sort of, she said, honestly. Not sort of, we're bound. The pirate stopped speaking once he caught sight of Zoro staring at them. They jumped back in shock and screamed in fear. With that, the 3 pirates ran off without another word. What was that about? Luffy asked with a snort. Just idiots being idiots, Zoro replied with a shrug. With that, Luffy and Zoro climbed onto their little boat while Nami climbed on hers. Hey, that flag has Buggy's mark on it, Zoro pointed out to Nami's boat from his and Luffy's boat. It was those pirates' boat. So, of course it does. I'll remove it later, Nami replied back. Stop right there, you morons, the village chief yelled, making each of them turn towards the said man. The mayor was panting as he had ran all the way to the docks once he heard that the little crew had ran off. Mr. Chief, Luffy said, waving and grinning to the said man. I'm sorry, the mayor shouted to them, happy tears falling from his eyes. I owe you one. Don't sweat it, Luffy yelled back with a laugh. Just shout out to the sea if you ever need any help. Zoro, Nami, and the mayor turned to Luffy, seeing him as if he had grown another head. But Zoro noted it in his mind. His captain was weird, but someone who doesn't look capable of lying. But until he doesn't say anything directly to him or something serious happens, he won't ask about it but will keep noting the details.